Jesus Christ, chat. What has this week become? What has this week become? Welcome in, guys. Oh, I was son of a fucking...
Making the mother of all omelets here, Jack. Can't spread over every egg.
Any more? Any more? It became... All right, I'm just gonna all right. Are we good? Are we done? We good? Everybody satisfied? I started watching the Lord of Mysteries because your recommendations have been enjoying it. I'm skipping the filler stuff though. Wait, there's chibi-sodes? I did not know there were chibi-sodes. You could probably skip those, yeah. Not a very quiet start to a quiet day. That is true. Are we good? Okay, but Kaboom's done. What do we have left? Is there anything else that anybody would like to use as an interrupt? Has anybody redeemed hardtack yet? I spoke too soon. All right. That was, Jesus, near perfect timing. That was actually kind of impressive. Y'all better fucking clip that.
There's our man. There's our boy.
And the Wheel of Punishment. Okay, we'll go get the Wheel of Punishment. Okay, spin, spin, spin. Tell us the sin we will win. Please don't be 50 squats. Please don't be 50 squats. Please don't be 50 squats. Oh, compliment self. Oh, Jesus. I am not wrapped up in the drama of the week, thank God. Okay, yeah, we'll go with that. That's a flex, baby. That's a flex.
Oh my God! Okay, it's happening. Everybody stay calm.
All right. All right. Wait. Scatter. No, don't scatter. You just got here, Void. You just got here. Hold on a second. Oh. No, I also just got a compliment in my DMs. No. Have some fucking humility, Jesus. No, listen. The specific reason compliments are on the Wheel of Punishment is because I don't compliment myself, and chat gets mad at me when I put myself down all the time. We don't have to. We're not going to news today. We are not going to news today, unless the news is like cute or uplifting or something. Like, I think one example I saw was that the Haru-Urara, the like actual horse, apparently as of today or yesterday, started receiving all of the grass that was gifted from overseas fans. So that's a good thing. Good news. That's good news. I like that news. Close the page that says today's news dismissed for the day. Hi, Fable. How are you doing? Self-deprecation is difficult, but I believe in you. Yeah. Keeps me level-headed. Or at least that's the way I see it. Being able to, like, see my own faults and poke them is also a way that keeps from, like, spiraling into the, like, deep ends and that, or just being able to, like, dismiss it as something that can be fixed. I was joking about how staying out of drama seems like a monumental feat nowadays. Listen, Jay. Do not inflate the ego of the ringleader. Listen, wouldn't you like it if I was more confident, though? If I wasn't just, like, stage confident, but if I was, like, entirely more confident, y'all would probably get, I don't know, IRL pictures on social media. Y'all may get gym pictures. I would probably already have the YouTube channel going, like, over a couple years ago. Insert clip of Marin having an ego. Which one is that? Which clip would that be? Yesterday was a day. Yesterday was a day, and it's probably going to continue to be a day until whatever happens, happens. To beat yourself up? Oh, no, I don't beat myself up with like any full-on intense or like verbal self-harm. It's more, hee-hoo, I know my faults and they're funny. You will ego? Not ego my Lego. How do you do? I'm doing good, Tommy. I'm doing pretty good. I woke up only a couple hours ago and I've been vibing. It's the one where you extend the chibi neck and say how you don't have an ego, huh? Is that a clip? I don't remember that clip at all. I have no memory of that clip. Are you lying to me? I feel like you're lying to me. I don't know, though. One F1 Speed Champion Lego car. I have the whole collection. How many cars is that? Oh, good Lord. I always love your streams. My Oshi, no. That's also, I think, one of the things I want to do is I want to get the fuck away from like all the VTuber terminology at this point. I'd rather just be like more of just a YouTuber that happens to use a digital persona. Like, I've been thinking about that shit for the fucking longest time. I don't like any of like VTuber culture type shit. Idle nonsense. The fucking big people basically not actually making content. The fucking, some of the big names also basically just being fucking, their streams are literally just clip farming. Forking the VTuber space. No more normal VTuber stuff in this house. Like Tonkatsu Sinclair? What? Tonkatsu Sinclair? Oh, Absolute Units. Oh, yep. That's probably a good example. That's a good example. The really, really deep voice anime girl that does like the... It's been a long time since I've seen any of their stuff. I used to see them on TikTok, but I haven't seen them in so long. Oh, well, it says their latest video was a year ago. They have a different channel. I know they do. There's a different channel somewhere that they do with other people, with Dashi. That's it, with Dashi. No Marin songs. Listen, I never said that. Maybe someday if I like got confident in singing, like forking a repo, like taking a car back during a repossession. Is that what you mean? Is that what you're talking about? I don't want to. Hi Tootsie. I don't want to fork. I don't want to fork the VTuber community. I've always wanted to do my own thing. Plus, I've like a GitHub repo. Oh, I don't know what that is. Singing practice playlist. Yusuf, how do you know about the singing practice playlist? How do you know about the singing practice playlist? What the fuck, dude? How do you know about my singing practice playlist? Shut up. Don't laugh at me. Don't laugh at me. Fucking exposed live on stream. Jesus Christ. How could you? How could you? Do you check like my Discord when I'm listening to music at the gym? Why would he laugh at something you're trying to get better at? It's funny that I don't think I told y'all about that playlist. A lot of the songs in there, honestly, are just songs that are like already in my like song playlist that we listen to stream. That I'm just like, huh, this would be fun to learn how to sing to. So I add it to that list, and that's basically it. That's basically it. But go round to karaoke? No, absolutely not. Not yet, at least. Although, haven't we did a couple songs one time, didn't we? It's on the Spotify. I saw it. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, shit. Oh, no. Okay, this is somebody's challenge run. I'm going to save that for later. Because I just saw a random video of Cyberpunk that somebody like, what if I played on the hardest difficulty and I could only use a sniper, which is basically the playthrough that I'm doing in my free time for Cyberpunk. So I kind of want to see if it's possible or if I'm going to end up running into a fucking roadblock head first. That'll be interesting. Anyways, Epstein, hold on. Wait. I have a meme somewhere for that. Hold on. Okay. I need to go find the meme. I found a meme yesterday? I don't remember for sure if it was yesterday or the day before, but it was basically, it was a react. Oh, found it. Damn, that's crazy. Where are the Epstein files? Save that. All right, let's get the screen in here. Screen time, kiddos. Oh, that's the GOS. That's fine. It's just turned on. And then, yeah, meme showcase. Oh, good Lord. I wish I could make like the meme showcase panel thing actually fit properly. So yeah, it's just this meme. Damn, that's crazy. Where are the Epstein files? Guys, did you know aliens are real? Damn, that's crazy. Where are the Epstein files? Wu-Tang is for children? Wu-Tang? I don't know any Wu-Tang songs. What's up, gamer? You come here often? I do, actually. I'm here 4 days a week. It's crazy. Can we not live in interesting times for 1 week? No. Unfortunately, no. Needler revolver? I don't like that. I don't like the sound of that. No, I like the interesting times. I do kind of like the interesting times, but at the same time, it's getting worse and worse. So it's going from interesting to evil. That's the problem. Interesting, good, awesome. New technologies, with caveats, Humanity advancing at a remarkable rates, new cities going up, new transportation methods, life getting preferably better would be the option, but instead it's getting universally worse. Sure, it's interesting. I want interesting positive. I don't want interesting negative. I can find ways to spice things up on my own. Things stop being interesting. I start forgetting what I'm meant to be doing today. Listen, that's fine. That's fine. I just like this meme. I really like this meme. Anyway, back to the desk. Yes, excellent. My desk. Interesting dystopian. Yeah. Interesting derogatory. Correct. Also correct. Why are we still talking about this guy? Clueless? I recommend looking it up, pray. If anybody says that. If anybody says that, they're obviously deflecting. Eyes. Okay, I'll give you eyes. Bah. Trypophobia. Trypophobia jump scare. Trypophobia jump scare. Oh my God, wait. One of the things we can do today is watch How to Drink. Oh my God, chat. Chat. We're gonna get to talk about booze today. Is that fucking Roblox on the YouTube icon? Holy shit. I got arson to do. I need to avoid the drama. Avoid the drama? We're not talking about any of the drama here. We don't gotta worry about that shit. Not even a little bit concerned. I am over here wearing my sunglasses with the fire reflecting in them. Eyes, free 99 at your local vendor. I mean, technically, they probably could be free. That wouldn't be too bad. Wouldn't be the worst. Also, hold on a second. I need to go answer something. Hold on. Hold on. Hold your horses. Boozing. We're not going to be drinking. We'll learn alcohol, chat. We're going to learn about alcohol together. Listen, I could always break out the fucking books. I have what are effectively the textbooks of bartending. Okay. Oogly doogly. Catch up on chat. Supposedly great and powerful president that orders is surprisingly scared of paper. Oh, okay, I get what you mean. Yeah. How do you wear glasses with so many eyes? Big sunglasses. Oh, here, hold on. I got a perfect song for this. Come now, go Monet. This is not the one I'm looking for. Oh yeah, this is what we need. Let's see how long it takes somebody to realize what song this is. Stop drinking at 21. We are not the same. What do you mean stop drinking at 21? Hi, Widowmaker. How are you doing? Oh my goodness. Also, hi, Haitian Sensation. Sorry I didn't say hi to you by name. Damn right. It's ZZ Top, baby. Sunglasses. Good song. I love ZZ Top. ZZ Top is a good band. Oh, that reminds me. Hold on. I had something that I had open. What the fuck do you mean this book is Alien Meets Midsummer? Wait. Is this a gay horror science fiction novel? And there's impreg. Honestly, I did not expect that from a book titled You Weren't Meant to Be Human. I was looking for horror novels because I want to get back into reading more. But there's a book. There's a book that seemed interesting because it has like a very classical like cover. Horror novels? No. Wait, is it fantasy, science fiction? They mentioned Appalachia though. And then they mentioned like alien bodies. And then it has the transgender tag on it. Okay. Did you ever read The Cathedral of Flesh? Do you mean the VTM one or the SCP one? The newspaper? No, I want science fiction. I want to be able to dissociate. I want a distraction. Although I could always just go listen to my audiobooks of Dreadnought and Sovereign again. Chat, if you ever want a fun, I say fun, sort of like power trippy book series, the Nemesis series by, I don't remember the author. I usually save re-listening to that book series for when I'm like traveling. April Daniels, that's who made it. That's who made the book. It's about a superhero, a transgender superhero who, at the beginning, the world's greatest superhero, Dreadnought, it's like a generational superhero title, dies right in front of our teenage protagonist, Danny, who's painting his nails out behind the mall. And Dreadnought lands near him, basically dies before him, and transfers all of his power to him. But in the process, it completely turns Danny into the body that he's always wanted. So the entire adventure is like a mix of course, like superhero antics, stopping supervillains, world-ending supervillains, all that jazz, while also trying to live through a like transphobic household and other superheroes who hate her for what she is and all this jazz. It's really good. It's really good. We need to go after more superheroes? No! You thinking of a different Nemesis? Probably. In this, Nemesis refers to a meteor in this book series. It wasn't called the Nemesis series until the second book came out. It was just Dreadnought before, and then the second one was Sovereign. It has a very good audiobook if you go get the audiobook. Speaking of fucking audiobooks, I was looking for other book series the other day. Why the fuck are audiobooks so expensive? I found multiple books that I thought were interesting that cost $55 fucking dollars. Why? Why? Why are they like this? Quiet Day, that sounds nice. I immediately start yelling into the microphone. The Nemesis, I was thinking of its name as a kaiju. No, it's not. It's also Dreadnought as a superhero, in case you want an idea. It's a very unique spin on like what you expect like Superman to be. Because they actually, you get scenes where like Danny's figuring out how the powers work, how the previous Dreadnoughts were able to fly, how they were able to be super strong. And it's a really cool spin on it. I really liked it. I really liked it. Have to pay the AI somehow? Ugh. The thing is though, is if you get a Kindle, or not a Kindle, a Audible, this was on Audible. If you get an Audible membership, then each month you get, I think it's 2 credits, and each of these books only cost 1 credit. Granted, I think you can also buy additional credits past the 2 that you get each month. But after that, I think a credit is also like, you can buy extra credits for like $17, I'm pretty sure. Billy, yeah. And yourself at home. Oh my goodness. Fuck is it? That's why it's $50? Yeah, that's exactly it, Ordain. Ooh, that's the Widowmaker. You gonna have fun. What game you playing? Is How I Got Dracula voiced by Tim Curry. Ooh. I did not know that was a thing. I honestly didn't. What's funny, when I was looking at Audible, at one point it was like, because you listened to Carmilla, you should check out these other books. And it wasn't other vampire books. It was lesbian romance books. And I was like, maybe, but I think I would rather have more vampire books, Audible. Please and thank you. Oh no, not Roblox. No! Don't fall into the hole. Don't give in. Don't give in. Oh my goodness. I do, in fact, need this iconing. Got killed by the itch.io purge? Oh? Ordering a neat articulated figure of a Taurosaurus. Taurosaurus. Oh, okay. This is the one that's largely depicted with like false eye looking things on its shields. I did not know those were called Taurosauruses. Very interesting. Taurosaurus latius? Very cool though. Very cool. Wait, did you say, you didn't say Lego, did you? Articulated figure. Okay, gotcha. Gotcha. I don't know why. My brain's on Legos. I think it's because Ordain brought up Legos earlier. Very, very odd. Very odd. I judge Roblox, but Fortnite gave me Power Rangers. I know not to throw stones in glass houses. Are you saying you went to go play Fortnite because they came out with the Power Rangers? What are we talking about today? Whatever the hell we want, but we are avoiding the news today. If they know how to find it outside itch.io, it's a compilation of queer horror stories made by... Ooh. Was it like a pack? Was the Cathedral of Flesh thing like a pack on itch.io of just like a bunch of stories? Or was it like one thing and it was just like a large book? Oh? Yeah, you could probably get an answer from Lou. Lou would probably know. Oh, do we need to find some of those? Ultimate walk skill, amazing Korean. Okay, yeah, well, fine. We'll do an hour and a half long fucking Korean noodle place collection and Vietnamese street food. Okay, pause that. Sorry if that was really loud, chat. Turn that down for now. Just because I had to turn it up yesterday for the game. That I stumbled into it. The thing is like, I like Power Rangers. I grew up on Power Rangers. I was even listening to Power Ranger themes not like even a week ago for shits and giggles. But I hear food. Oh yeah, we'll get to food. We'll get to food. I promise. We're going to do some chill stuff today. We'll probably also do some how did $1 million fake. How this nobody sold $35.2 million in fake wine. Was it cheap wine or was it like food colored what was it? Food colored I'm brain farting. Water. The fucking word I was looking for was water. Why am I like this? I got 2 new horror books you're actually really excited for. Ooh, do tell, do tell. For Merit. Okay, twist my arm for a hour-long noodle video. So vinegar with red dye? Maybe. It could be. I don't know exactly. I honestly do not know for sure. Listen, I played Roblox way back when I got like my very first laptop. It was a hand-me-down laptop from my grandpa. And the only thing I played was a like fake Pokemon game where you got to play as the Pokemon. Like it's all the Pokemon of first gen was basically what it was. Adam Savage is tested. I didn't know Adam Savage had a fucking YouTube channel. Oh no, is it time to see what has happened to my old favorite childhood star? It's like historically fantasy, horror, mass, hysteria. Attack on a group of sisters, but they very well might be the werewolves everyone is accusing them of. Oh! Okay. He does mini builds? Oh. Wait, that's a funny as shit clip. That's a funny as shit. Okay, so one of the things I've been watching in like my free time just to kind of like relax and kind of have something playing in the background is I watch a lot of Abroad in Japan. Granted, that has also improved my opinion of CDawg VA. I used to never care for the stuff he makes, but when I'm watching Abroad in Japan and CDawg's there or they're doing stuff together, I really like them. They're hilarious. They're funny. But the clip I just found, apparently Chris has a child, a baby, and apparently the baby responds to Iron Mouse's singing in a very positive way, which is very funny. He works with the Queen of just The Hounding by Zinobe Puris. That is a hell of a name. He's just getting dorkier. Good. That's the only way I expect out of Adam Savage. Was the title? Oh. Dumb Thumbs? What do you mean, Dumb Thumbs? Dumb Thumbs? You know, we're not even on the playlist. This is just, the songs are just playing. The songs are just playing. It's funny. It's cute. It's also funny because in Abroad in Japan, Anytime Sea Dog's there and they bring up Iron Mouse, they refer to Iron Mouse as Sea Dog's wife, which is very cute. Very cute. Queen of City Robots, Simone Goetz? I have no idea who that is. Hold on. Wait. Is it Getz? Geertz. Simone Geertz. Okay, yeah, I've seen some of her videos. I've especially seen the one with the robot pouring the milk, just absolutely fucking flubbing it. Fantastic. I mean, I wouldn't doubt it. I mean, they could also just be best friends, though. They could also just be really close friends. Either or. Either or. A Shane and Courtney from Smosh? I do not know what that is like. I don't know that. I know Smosh. I don't know the people's names, and I don't know what like their relationships are like. Ah, yes. Shinyan. Wait, they did? I was gonna say, I thought that was an April Fool's joke. I know fucking, I think, who was it? Didn't Sigrid and Bird, didn't they also do the same thing? Or didn't Bird propose on April Fool's? Maybe they are married. I don't know. There's too many things that are just like very much just clips and like Wikipedia nonsense. That's people just like. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter to me. I wish both of them an extremely happy life. They have both worked hard for what they have. Bird does a lot of things. I like watching Sigrid and Bird. They're fucking hilarious. I've been severe soreness from gym. Good, Ren. Good. That means it's working. But yeah, Bird's fucking... I think she proposed with a ring pop too. I don't remember. I just remember seeing the video afterwards. Was it a ring pop? Oh, I don't remember. I don't remember at all. Love those disaster lesbians. They're so cute. They're so goofy. Oh my goodness. Flesh and Blood tonight or get back to working on my comic? Ooh, good question. Good question. Chat, do you ever get flashbanged when you're scrolling YouTube and you come across like one of the annoying, here's free movies if you want to watch them. They're free with ads. Who remembers the movie Axel? AXL? Wait, this thing came out in 2018? I could have swore it was earlier than that. That feels like a 2010 movie. Axel, good fucking... The robot dog, yes. Axel is a top secret robotic dog created by Andric, a crane system scientist to assist and protect soldiers. Attack exploration logistics by the scientist who created it. The robot embodies advanced next generation artificial intelligence. Gets fined by a motorbike racer in the desert. Goofy. I thought this was a different one. I thought there was one where there was like a robot horse back in like 2010 or earlier. I just watched Nat Geo series on YouTube because they post their documentaries for free. Hell yeah. Who's in it? Oh, sorry. Hold on. I closed it. Let me reopen it real quick. Alex. Oh, good lord. Nodstratzer. Becky G. No idea who that is. Alex McNichol, Dominic Raines, Lou Taylor Pucci, Thomas Jane, Patricia De Leon, Nico Guardado, Marie-Francois Theodore, Ted McGinley, Eric Edibari, Hassie Harrison, John Elizabeth Stincy. John Elizabeth Stincy playing Robert Elizabeth Stincy. Oh, huh? That doesn't feel real. That doesn't feel real. For some reason, I'd link that movie with monster trucks. It looks like a fake movie from Tropic Thunder. That there wasn't another one. It's fine. We'll all live without hardcore Harry. Hi, 2 questions. How are you doing? What trouble are you getting into? Wait, I explain all 6 Scream movies while stalking my cameraman and attempting to go viral. Okay, that's a pretty funny fucking title. Oh god, I don't think I've even seen all of the Scream movies. I'm 99% sure I haven't. I know I haven't, actually. That's 100%. Rodney Copperbottom is Obi-Wan Kenobi. What? Oh! Oh my god, you're right. Holy shit. I never put that together. God, though, fucking robots, dude. I only saw robots once, and it was at my very first sleepover ever. And we stayed up till 6 a.m. My friends and his entire family, because that's apparently just what their schedule was like. We stayed up to 6 a.m. It's an adjustment. Oh, it happens. That happens. I need to get new glasses. I've had my prescription forever, but trying to afford like new frames and stuff has been bleh. Although I do have all the stuff that's on Throne still. I've left the balance up there because I'm just like, I'm going to save that for after the move to actually buy the equipment, because I want the equipment that was paid towards. But I've had a new prescription for literally over 6 months now. But I just haven't gone to get new glasses. I was going to get new glasses at the time I got my prescription, but I just didn't quite like the ones that they had. And I'm at the point where it's like, yeah, I've settled for glasses most of my life. And I'm just like, I kind of want to pick the ones that I really like and find the ones that I know I want. They had to change Aunt Fanny's name in the UK. Wait, what did they change it to? Eye stigmata? What? Nerd glasses. I mean, I am wearing like big-ish black. The arms are metal, but the forward frames are kind of plastic-ish. But these glasses are old as dirt. You'll never guess what the brand is, though. You'll never guess what the brand. These are so old. The rubber on part of the arm has worn away. Good fucking lord, dude. Timbo? No. I've said it before on stream. I know I have. Aunt Fan? Really? Really? That's fucking goofy. No, the brand are Timberlands. The boot brands. These are my Tims. I should go see an optometrist because the side of my left eye is kind of sucky. Yeah, that makes sense. Oh, chat. Do you remember, when was it? Was it last Thursday? Was it last Tuesday? We watched I Tried Every Restaurant on Route 66. We could go back to that. We stopped on the video that's them going to Big Texan. I got them face Tims. The fucking Yuttas? I thought Yuttas were Yeezys. I could have swore they were. Good song.
I'm on a road trip.
Shut up. Shut up. I've realized Marin and Aunt Fanny have a similar color scheme. Thanks. Do they? I thought. No, we don't. She's white and like pink. But why do you call her Aunt Fanny? But we couldn't call her Aunt Booty. Oh, good Lord. Somebody drew a human fucking Aunt Fanny. I hate that. Oh, I hate that. I regret image searching this. Go back. Go back. Take me back. Ooh. Okay. You know how we did the pizza? Do you know how we did the Babish video of finding the best pizza in New York? He has another one for burritos. Fuck, go back! Step on chat with them, Tims, with consent. That would just be headbutting you. Elder millennial not knowing new slang. I'm gonna say I could have swore Yettas were Yeezys just because they both start with Y. And did pretty good night. How are you doing? What trouble are you getting into? Okay. And I gotta try it once. Wait, which part? I can't chat. I kind of want to do the burritos. On the chat, I'm sorry. I'm obsessed with burritos, okay? If you can slam it on top of a pizza in a burrito or in a fried pocket of some kind, I will fucking eat it. Unless it's sour cream. You can be shot on the spot. The Jurassic Park novel on the side. Ooh. Undertale Deltarune fan games called Delta Travelers. I've had a weird craving recently. This is about food. A really hard urge to play like some of the more classic Pokemon games from scratch. Like I really want to play Emerald again. I really want to play my Crystal. But I have to unbox the weird little like Game Boy game player projector thing that I have. I've had it since last Christmas. No, I think it was the Christmas before. The glorious chimichanga. Praise be to the chimichanga. Praise be to the chimichanga. I just wish more places when they made chimichangas would actually put the rest of the ingredients inside of it. There's so many places I go to where it's literally just the meat and cheese inside the chimichanga. No. Lettuce, tomato, everything, guac, motherfucking grilled onions. Put that shit in there and then deep fry it. I don't care how hot it is. Hey, can I get you all the legendaries and I never saw my game ever again? What a fucking bitch. Babish's video where he ate everything Homer Simpson ate while in New Orleans from one episode? Oh. Let's see, hold on, let's see if we can find that one. Babish in New Orleans. Binging with Babish 5 million subscribers special. Okay, yeah, we'll add this one in. We will add this one in. We're gonna save the like really long noodle one that I have for the end if we need it, because we are gonna go through the like the I tried every restaurant on Route 66. We're on day 3, and I don't know how many days it is total. Base Tuxedo, that is a good name. That is a good name. Base Tuxedo Mask, thank you for the follow. Based. No, that's a good one because I also want to talk to y'all about like the French Quarter. I like talking about New Orleans and like its history and stuff, especially when if it's in places I've been to. All the food from New Orleans, especially the alligator po' boy. You need to eat an alligator po' boy. Oh my god, you need to eat an alligator po' boy. It's so good. An alligator po' boy from a good place with like good, nice meaty pieces of the tail. Oh my god, it's the best. I want to visit New Orleans before it's too late. You should. You absolutely should. Too late for what? I heard you talking about playing classic Pokemon. Have you ever heard of Legacy ROM hacks? I have. The thing is, is I kind of want the experience of holding the console again, or the controller. Thing is, did I mention it on stream? I'm pretty sure I mentioned it. No, I mentioned it in a Discord call a couple days ago. I have one of those like Abernick things because I wanted it. I was like, I want to be able to play a bunch of like the old games I either never got to, or some of the old games I played far back in the past. And this thing it's supposed to come and it did. It worked at the time. It came fully loaded with like games across most, like basically from PlayStation 1 backwards. Everything from PlayStation 1 backwards is on that little machine. And now I can't get it to turn on. I played less than an hour on that thing when I first got it, and I have not been able to get it to turn on ever since. Every time I ask how it tastes, I get the like chicken. It makes me sad. Well, okay, Woozer, that's because it is. That's because it's very much like chicken with that little bit of fishy taste to it. But the thing is it's fried, and because it's usually Cajun fried, it's seasoned really well. And you throw it in a po' boy, and it's a different kind of experience. It has a slightly different texture, but it is very similar to chicken. Oh, wait, that reminds me. No, I only had the camel burger. I was say I went back to that burger place a couple days ago, where I had the camel burger, and I was like, "What burger did I get in?" And I think on the spot, I didn't get any of like the other game meat, which the other game meat was elk. I ended up just getting turning one of their burgers into a fried chicken sandwich. It was awesome. It was awesome. You know, we're not doing any news or anything, so we can actually go to the big chatting screen. There we go. Seems like it'd be super fatty. It wasn't all that fatty. It had a unique taste to it, as well as like a denser beef texture to it almost. The weird way to say it is it felt like biting into a ground beef burger, but bigger. Like, I don't know how else to describe it that way. I've tried an ostrich steak, not bad. We have a brand in the UK that sells ostrich steaks and gazelle burgers, and the brand makes sure all purchases of their brand goes into the Conservation Alliance in Africa. Ooh, speaking of conservation in Africa, who heard that a buffalo laid out a Texas millionaire and sent him to God? Hot dog cart in Portland that does an Alaskan reindeer Polish dog. Ooh. Ooh. Oh no, anyway. Yeah, neat, exactly. A millionaire big game hunter got laid out by a bison. Based buffalo, I agree. That's one big game hunter out of the way, less poaching. Sure. I was gonna say, just add the water buffalo to the list with the orca. With orcas. I thought it was the Cape buffalo. It was the Cape buffalo. It's not like bison buffalo, but those are used interchangeably with the animal. Yeah, the African buffalo. So think of the kind of curly horns, if you will, that also kind of look like hair of the most annoying man you've ever seen. The Widowmaker. Listen, it's always funny to me when people get absolutely roasted for big game hunting. And God, the fucking arguments people make for big game hunting, they're always like, oh, but we're controlling the population. It'll be fine. And plus the money we say goes back to conservation. Yeah, sure, maybe it does. But you are most definitely not controlling the population. I could understand with like deer if you found out that like in your state there was like a massive, what was it? What's that like brain rotting disease that deer gets? And it's like highly infectious. Basically, if you needed to do a massive cull for disease, wasting disease, that's it. If you had to do a cull for like a species of animal that like the majority of the population was infected with this and needed to be culled, yeah, sure, totally. Deer suffer from brain rots? Same as RFK? No. But no, that's big game hunting is fucking stupid, and any excuses that somebody comes up with is insane. granted, I do know that there are organizations in Africa that use the funds to be like, yeah, you can come hunt this lion that's like old, dying, or whatever, and take it with you for like $10,000. And that $10,000 goes back to the conservation company to be able to like do these things. I still don't think it's right. I don't think it's right. That's like fucking jerking off a rich man and telling him like, oh, you're doing such a good job, sir. You're doing such a good job. Yeah, go ahead and go kill that other animal. Firefighter who started the fucking fire? Yeah. Yeah. In Maverick? Maverick. I don't know what Maverick is. I don't know. Same reason why I hate people trying to get videos of the apex predator animals eating / killing an animal by either luring a herbivore into getting killed or of restraining animals so it can be eaten for a video. Who got buffaloed? Yes, 2 questions. He got buffaloed. Yes, I was honestly just thinking of him a second ago when I was talking about big game hunters. That was who I was picturing. And acknowledge the shit they do is bad. It'd be so refreshing to just hear something like, yeah, I just hunt for the sake of taking life and making my dick feel less small. X amount of animals they're causing problems is one thing. But like, I think it would be better to fucking have people do that in your like country than let rich white people come over and, again, like the other like somebody else said, like Frankel said, let their pee-pee feel less small. Mel Gibson and Alfred Molina. An event that echoes Cecil the Lion while he had all the paperwork. It was still a lion that was wearing a collar, part of the research program. I take solace knowing the hunter spent $100,000 for the single lion. This is another one of the things that like fines are. That fines are legal for the rich. That's all that is. When a law's punishment is fucking fines and fines only, that basically just reads as legal for somebody who has enough money. Like there's a video on the internet of stuff like a baby goat tied to a post and then get a video of it being eaten. The level of beatdown I would be willing to give to some fuckers that I saw recording that. His money wasn't a fine. Rather, he paid Zimbabwe Conservation for the permit to hunt a lion. Yeah, that's usually how much they cost. I just said 10,000 earlier for as like a random guess of a number. Hunting for sport is very different from hunting for food. If you're hunting for food, I have like borderline no gripes. Hunting for sport, I'll fight back on that. Good song. Right next to parked cars with the shade. That's not a hunt by any definition. Also true. Laws are only laws if you aren't rich enough to just pay your way out of it. Yeah. Oh, here, hold on. I know what we need. Is this the right one? Turn it up a bit. Oh no, I think we're also about to have a commercial, aren't we? Ah, shit. I need to get the... We'll do the pictures. In your eyes. All right. I need to get GOS set up. It doesn't have the like permanent link like Words on Stream does for whatever reason. Right? Okay, yeah, ad break starting soon. Screen time, kids. Treat it all the same. Later then? Later what? Later what? It's fine. There's a fine. Ugh. What about catch and release and fishing? Catch and release and fishing is totally fine. As long as you're not like maiming the fish or just throwing them on the bank and letting them flap around, like basically just torture. Swimming pool. Plow. Won't improve the paradigm. All right. Messes up some environments because tourists release fish not native to those rivers. Catch and release is fine in a general sense, as long as you're catching it in the location and releasing it immediately in the same location. Now, there are places that do have, let me turn this down, that do have, is that a ladle? Ladle. Trophy. Towel. Skates. Petitions. Okay. Rollerblading. Ooh. Oh, yes. Oh, too late, Ruser. That's allow it though. Sleeve. Cheese. Same as aliens abducting and releasing humans? Kind of, yeah. Here, we'll do another round. But it's a little different. It depends on the case. In the case of it, environmentally invasive fish, I think you should take them and either eat them or use them for another purpose. You should not release them back in. But if it comes to native species, then catch and release, I think, is totally fine. Is it a little torturous still? Definitely. But in the end, is it as bad as hunting? Not really. Specifically after listening to a representative from South Africa. Oh, what the hell? No. Oh, that's one of the podcasts I listened to. Goofy. I don't know why it started that. Weird. Ah, fuck it. Yeah, fuck it. Donkey. That's a llama. Toaster. Fern? Tricycle. Toilets. No. Rage. Anger. I don't know. Also, hold on, let me go back and read that South Africa thing. Funds go towards land conservation, paying locals to use their private land, paying them to assist in protecting said animals. Lotteries restricted to only the oldest animals, especially the males, who often kill the younger breeding. Yeah, it's the thing. It's one of those complicated situations. Like, a lot of those are good. But my brain is always the one, like, while all those good things are happening from it, it feels like it's a bad industry to perpetuate. Toilet grenades? Ah, son of a bitch. These are hard. Toilet grenades? Water bomb? I don't know. I honestly, I don't know. All right, I need to turn that down in my ears. That was much louder for me than it was for y'all. Good Lord. All right. Wrong button. Also wrong button. Wrong button, wrong button, wrong button. Don't laugh at me. It looked like a toilet. It looked like a grenade that had a toilet on top of it. In my defense. In my defense. I miss Moraine down in Africa. Oh my God. Why are you like this? Why are you like this? I don't have toilet gun. No, it's kitchen gun and toilet grenade. Don't you remember? Oh, it could have been a bath bomb. That's a weird way to draw a bath bomb. All right, chat. Do we want to see what Babish goes and does in New Orleans? Here's the thing. Most practical solution to a lot of problems often doesn't feel great. When I love iguanas. If I'm in Puerto Rico, I'm hunting them because they're invasive and destroying the environment. Yes. As I said, you can hunt invasive species. And if you're hunting for food, which iguanas actually do make some pretty decent food, I have no moral qualms with that. Makes fucking sense. Nostalgia? What about nostalgia? Gonna get so many beads. Beads? What about beads? Okay. Let me get the capture right. No, bad Megadeth. No Symphony of Destruction. We're creating things today. Mardi Gras joke? Oh, gotcha. I should have known.
Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome back to Binging with Babish, where this
You do
week
just
we're
be standing
celebrating
there.
something really special.
You do just be
hitting
standing there.
5 million subscribers. I'm also very excited to announce my book tour, which will begin October 21st, but we'll get into that at the end.
Honestly,
of the episode.
pretty
A while
good
back on an
transitions
episode
here.
of
I
Binging
like
with
this.
Babish, I surprised my former roommate and oldest friend, Rashid DeRosso, with a trip to New Orleans. Really, it was a reunion trip. Rashid, Sawyer, and I spent the summer
shit.
in New Orleans back in 2006 volunteering and making a documentary in the wake of Hurricane Katrina. While
Wait,
it was
how
a very
old is
meaningful
Babish?
journey for the
He
three
was
of us,
old
we
enough to be
were
making a
there together.
documentary
This time
in
was
New
different.
Orleans
We were there to
post-Katrina?
celebrate. And in doing so, you discover 1,000
Oh,
little
yes.
things
Here.
you love.
Here's the average experience in New Orleans for the first like 2 to 3 hours as you're still working up a buzz. Fantastic. Also, yes, those are horse
about the city.
stops. Wait, go back.
1,000 little things you love about the city.
That's the cathedral. This is the park that's pretty much just all concrete. The building to the left is a museum. I didn't get to go into it because the weekend I was there. Also, hold on, my full screen's broken on my ends. It wasn't open. They were doing like remodeling or something, so I wasn't able to go to the museum, and I was upset about it. Also, if you can see them, they're in the bottom left corner there, both of them, holding hands. Aw. But Babish is holding a martini glass. He's holding a martini glass. Okay. Wait, does he have a different drink in every picture?
Crawfish, lamb tagine, grilled lamb
Lamb
sausage,
tagine. Oh, shit.
zucchini bisque, crab meat po' boy, duck po' boy, chicken sausage po' boy, crawfish sausage po' boy, cochon de lait po' boy, turkey jardinera po' boy,
Oh, I could fucking
roast beef
kiss
po'
you,
boy,
dude.
alligator po' boy,
Alligator po' boy, baby! Doing the whole goddamn thing.
catfish almondine, crawfish almondine, crawfish etouffee, boiled crawfish.
Okay, where's the
Cajun
catfish
Asian
achapalaya?
shrimp and duck pasta, fried crab cake, pecan catfish, blackened redfish, seafood
Oh.
merliton casserole. Fried
Oh, I know
chicken,
K-Paul's.
fried
Wait,
green
wait,
tea,
wait,
blackened redfish,
wait.
Seafood merliton casserole, fried chicken,
Dookie Chase. Okay.
fried green tomatoes, stuffed shrimp,
Oh.
muffaletta, barbecue brisket sandwich, barbecue chicken sandwich, smoky bacon greens, seafood au gratin, seafood gumbo, frog's legs,
There's also a lot of historical sites.
chicken gumbo.
Listen, that was basically all I did while I was there. It was, okay, food, drink, historical site. Food, drink, historical site, and repeat for 3 days. That was pretty much it. That was what I did the whole time.
Jambalaya.
Granted, I didn't get to have nearly as much food as I wanted.
Red beans
Oh.
and rice with sausage. Veggie red beans and rice. Pralines and cookies.
Oh.
Oyster pralines. Oyster shots. Oyster patties. Bananas Foster. King cake. Dixie cake.
King King?
pie,
Oh, king
Asian
cake,
boudin,
okay.
Boudin balls, crawfish remoulade, shrimp and lump crab meat ravigote, au croissant crawfish po' boy, and yakame. Oh, yeah.
Chats. I would do this. If y'all gave me, if we at some point raised enough money to have a like essentially a group food trip to New Orleans and I brought like Sai and Faye, we could do this. Like exactly this. I mean, is that everything that Homer eats really in the episode? Or is he just showing off like every Cajun dish he could find?
Planning our trip, we decided to recreate.
Oh,
shot
that
for
is
shot
exactly
Homer
what he does.
Simpson's
Holy
New
shit.
Orleans food rampage. What started out as a fun idea turned into weeks of preparation, scoping out restaurant menus for specific dishes, procuring the necessary accoutrement, and creating routes in Google Maps that would make Jackson Pollock panic. With every step.
Yo,
of
can I get that
the
info?
plan, we headed to New Orleans for our long.
Can I get those Google Docs, bud?
Boys, we're here. We're here in New Orleans. It's been how many
Yeah,
years?
it would probably be like a big long vlog.
13.
Not a long one, but it'd probably be like a series. We'd go like a week. This would be like the course of a week, I think.
Last time we were here to work. We're actually still here to work. We actually have
But last time we were here for work. This time we're here for fun work.
Some things never change.
Straight off the plane, we hopped into our rental minivan to hit all 54 locations.
I've been to
in
New
just
Orleans.
A few days, confident we had everything we needed
total
to
of
make our
3
way through the
times?
city with ease.
Shot
You
one.
know you gotta make a sign, right? You make an R. Then you look at yourself and go, no, this is not working.
Just go find one in the fucking
With a valiant effort.
in the airport.
And is that what you call this?
Let's go with yes.
Delayed.
Look at the in front of it.
Ooh.
There's waves outside of Voodoo.
Voodoo barbecue, baby. Oh.
They can make us a barbecue sandwich real quick. We just gotta go in there. This is great.
Damn. Yeah, New Orleans is prone to flooding. Hold on.
What are we gonna do?
When I was in New Orleans, I was there for only a weekend when I was like there for multiple days in a row. The other days it was there, hang out for a little bit and then go somewhere else because we were traveling for the other 2 times. But the 3 days I spent there, it rained one of the days and the whole fucking town felt like it ground to a halt. I was going to go to the Death Museum. They have like a museum of death in the French Quarter. And I was going to go to it. But literally, as I was walking up to the building, a lady comes out, locks the door, and starts to walk away. And I go, are y'all closing? It's only like 2. And she goes, yeah, it's about to start raining. And if I stay here, the place is going to flood. I was like, oh, okay. So I just kept walking. And eventually I came to just outside of a pretty fancy hotel in the Quarter. And the sewer cap on the in front of the hotel, there was like 3 people standing there watching it, including like their concierge or one of their valet guys. And the sewer cap was just shaking around like violently. And I don't mean like just kind of in its thing. Like if you tried to go stop it, that thing is going to crush your fingers to oblivion. It looked like if it like ever settled and the pressure came back, it was just going to shoot up into the sky. Guys, they almost died at the Death Museum. Become an exhibit. It's fine.
It's all just messed up.
Rained out? What do you mean rained? Oh, come on. Oysters.
I'm very curious to find
At
out
Praline Connection?
precisely what that is.
Wait, I know where Praline Connection is.
This is a great trick if you ever want to stretch your soup a little bit. If, say, it's, the Great Depression or something.
Rice? I was gonna say, just rice, dude.
This is too much rice, guys.
Fuck you.
This looks completely wrong. So, we
Fuck you.
ran into a whole bunch of road speed bumps there.
Fuck you, rice is great in anything.
Here. We're back on track, baby. We're doing pretty good. Let me see how many more we got to go here. 1, 2, 3, 4.
We had 3 delayed, and then you can count backwards. It's 51.
10, 11,
Rice is the perfect filler.
13,
Hey, find.
14 more. Nope.
Oh, for the day? Oh.
Okay, so we had a few hiccups along the way, even with weeks of planning a crew of 5.
Holy shit, wait, was that like 14, 15 places in a day?
Seen before. We slept soundly that
Oh,
night,
I'd be so
knowing it was
full.
only the first
I'd be
day
so
of
full.
Exploring a new frontier.
Rise and shine, motherfucker! It's 4 a.m. Time to get beignets!
What?
Everything okay?
So we just learned that Katrin von Niederhauser, Katrin von Niederhauser just beat us to doing this. She
Oh,
posted a
come
video
on.
for recreating this food crawl 3 days ago. So Katrin,
You bitch!
hats off. You beat us to it. We're gonna put a link to your video in the video
Oh,
description
man.
below. You guys go check it out. She beat us to it. She did a great job. And
The thing is,
we're gonna
I could
see
probably do it,
what she went
honestly.
through, because we're only like 10 restaurants deep, and I'm already stuffed. What about you
Wait,
guys?
what? You're 10 restaurants deep? What? You haven't.
And while doing our best to stay positive,
Oh, they like
let's just
skipped
say
a
that
bunch of.
our
I
replies
wanted to
Katrina
see every
Janine's
single
video
one.
was
Fuck you.
getting stung a little.
Yeah, it looks like they're also on Food and Wine.
There's a Grubhub article.
Damn it.
At least we'd be the first Americans to complete the challenge, and with that completely unimpressive and unwarranted
Bourbon Street. Bourbon Street. All the lights, all the clubs, all the food you can imagine. All way too expensive. Also, I think
optimism, we pressed forward.
Barely
Also,
Legal
we ordered
Club.
52 dishes over the course of 4 days. Amongst the 5 of us there,
Bum,
that adds up to
ba-dum,
2.5
ba-dum,
dishes
bum,
per
bum,
person per
ba-dum.
day, which we greedily devoured.
Stop filming and eat something, why don't you?
Landing. Oh, okay.
old shotgun houses.
Jeez. They taste very much like the way the coastline smells.
Yes. It's my favorite sandwich in the world. It's got like all the sharpness from the olives and tons of cheese.
Wait,
tons
what's
of,
in there?
Salami and prosciutto.
And it's a cold cut. It was a cold cut. It's fine. I like my hot sandwiches. I could use the bourbon right now.
No good.
You know what? I could go for a drink. Oh, he's literally just. Oh,
I was just saying I'm oddly hungry.
yes, it's binging with Babish. It's their like 5 million sub special. They're in New Orleans trying to do the
This time yesterday.
the
I was
Homer
feeling
binge
myself
from
and all
Simpsons. From The Simpsons. What does the rest of New Orleans look like? Like the normal stuff?
gonna be rough.
It's a little bit different. It's not too much different. You're not gonna be able to stick 4 of those in there, champ.
All right, now you tell me when you're comfortable.
Chakimos. Oh, uh-oh. You broke the bonehead ball!
Something.
That's fucking crime, dude!
Yeah.
Maybe any more room? How's that look?
You got any more room?
Good? Yeah, that's it. Great. That's the shot. Happy?
I like the shrimp tail just in his nose.
The 4 days felt like a marathon, but they were impossible.
Oh god. I'm trying to look for more places that I like immediately recognize.
Great friends and a great crew certainly help, but there's no way we could have accomplished this without the beautiful, welcoming people of New Orleans. So thank you to everyone that
Listen,
made this
New Orleans
possible.
is fucking
All things
fantastic,
considered,
especially
the
for
trip to New Orleans was
food.
a huge success. It's the craziest thing we've done yet.
I wish they had a longer video.
And just like every place I get to go, every person I get to meet, every dish
Where's
I get
the
to
rest
try,
of the
every
content, Babish?
milestone, great and small, it's all thanks to you guys.
Hi,
You guys have
Maki.
built
Can I get a
community
shout out for
on this
Maki?
channel That's allowed us to push boundaries in ways.
Screw this,
we
I haven't been
never
asking for
could
shout outs
imagine.
much recently. Remember having fun in Mafia 3 playing through 1960s New Orleans?
Discover 1,000 little things you love about this city.
Ah, okay, there's the comparisons.
Asian crawfish.
In liver transplants, a what?
Lamb sausage, zucchini bisque, crab meat po' boy, duck po' boy, chicken sausage po' boy, crawfish sausage po' boy, cochon de lait po' boy, turkey jardiniere po' boy, roast beef po' boy, alligator po' boy, crawfish etouffee, boiled crawfish.
Oh, fuck, I'm gonna be hungry. God damn it. And I was gonna go to the movies today.
Blackened redfish, seafood merliton casserole, fried chicken, fried green tomatoes, stuffed shrimp.
Wait.
Merliton casserole, fried chicken, fried green tomatoes.
Okay. I don't know why they did it this way. Because I am almost 99% sure that in Homer's shot, what's behind him is Lafitte's blacksmith shop. What's behind Babish is not Lafitte's. I don't know why he didn't just go to Lafitte's. It's if y'all don't know what Lafitte's is, for anybody who's curious, Lafitte's blacksmith shop used to be a blacksmith shop. It hasn't been in like 300 years, and it is the oldest bar in the United States. It is the oldest bar that you can find in the United States. I think it was closed, maybe. Well, you could have been outside it. Although I know Lafitte's is open almost every day unless there's some kind of like emergency, but still could have been outside of it. I know for a fact this isn't Lafitte's.
Tomatoes, stuffed shrimp, muffalata, barbecue brisket sandwich, barbecue chicken sandwich, smoky bacon greens, seafood au gratin, seafood gumbo, frog's legs,
There's also a lot of historical sites.
chicken gumbo, jambalaya, spinach artichoke, Creole
It's only 150 years old?
Capone, red beans and rice with sausage,
The
red
Lafitte's?
beans and rice, pralines and cookies, oyster praline.
Well, no, it's
oyster
older
shell,
than the United
oyster
States.
patties,
The bar
banana
itself, it's
cluster,
older than the
fruit
United
cake,
States.
Dixie cake,
It was there when the
pecan pie,
French were there.
boudin, boudin balls, crawfish remoulade,
Fuck yeah.
shrimp and lump crab meat ravigote,
Ooh.
croissant crawfish
I've never had
po' boy,
that.
and yakame. Ah, yeah.
Although I have seen Commander's Palace.
Ah.
Commander's Palace is not that far and it's very easy to find. When I was there though, it was closed. It was closed for some prolonged reason. I don't know why. It just wasn't open. So it predates the US. Good to know. Yes. I didn't say it was the oldest American bar. I said it was the oldest bar in America. Is this going to be a marathon thing to do? Hey, listen, I'm adding every single one of these to the bucket list. Okay, hold on a second. I'm going to put this in the group chat really quick too. Okay. Me dropping things on Faye and Sai's lap to be like, all right, then planning New Orleans trip some point. All right, so we have the burritos in New York. This is one I want to see. I want to see if he's gonna, I think he's gonna be forced to go with different burritos because this looks like a breakfast burrito. A brekkie burrito. For needing money and selling us the land that they also didn't own. Correct.
Would you look at the size of it?
Oh, hell yeah. Or is it gonna be all breakfast burritos?
Guys, it is 75 and sunny outside, and the air
There
is
we go.
pregnant with
Is what?
glorious purpose.
Is what?
Do you know, every morning when I'm in the shower, I engage in an imaginary debate with an angry Californian who repeatedly tells me that there's no good breakfast burritos in New York City. And I say,
Oh god, this
no,
is gonna be breakfast burritos.
no,
Damn it!
You're wrong, imaginary Californian guy. And not only is it a potent lesson of
I was gonna say, California burrito is pretty good. Like
chicken.
chicken, sometimes fried, sometimes just grilled, with avocado, french fries, and a bunch of other stuff thrown in. Shit's a good burrito. I don't think it's the best burrito out there.
Winner, come back here to the lab and recreate it for you all to see. Let's hit the streets.
Yeah, thank you, Knights. I actually really like that. That would be a fun trip. It'd be a little expensive trip because a lot of those restaurants are very bougie.
These places are list toppers, fan favorites, legends old and new. First up,
They are
Golden
very,
Diner,
very
which is
bougie.
Chef Sam Yu's diner darling, tucked underneath the Manhattan Bridge. Probably best
Anna!
known for justifiably famous.
Wait, Anna, ending at 1 o'clock? Insert Halo theme here. Okay, hold on, I got you. Where is it? There you go. All right, welcome in, Raiders. Those of you who don't know me from Anna's, my name is Martin, the ringleader of the Dark Carnival. I typically play games that are dark, spooky, terrifying, or whatever things, little inclinations I like to get into. If you happen to not know what I typically do over here, like I said, I play horror games most of the time. Today's Thursday. Tuesdays, Thursdays, we like to hang out, we like to yap, we like to do whatever we want. This week suddenly took a weird turn yesterday, so we are having a really easy, kind of quiet day. We're going to watch a lot of food videos. If you're hungry, I am so sorry. Is that Jory? Thank you for the follow. Welcome in. Anna, you ended really early. Or have you been going a really long time? Did you go all night? You were still going when I went to bed. I'm pretty sure. Last night. You did not go all night, right? Today's just a short day, right? Chorizo breakfast burritos. Ooh. All right. That's enough of goobery. But welcome in, Raiders. If any of you need to go run, hit the bathroom, get some food, do all that jazz. I totally understand. If you don't need food now, I promise you're going to need food later because we got videos on the best breakfast burritos in New York. We're going to talk about some booze. And then we're probably going to go back to our Route 66 walkthrough of famous restaurants on the old Route 66. Who just split M&Ms everywhere? Oh, spilt M&Ms everywhere. Short Day beat Halo 2. Ooh. You're playing all of them, right? Yeah, Greg's How to Drink. I love Greg's stuff. I have a stomachache. I chose to eat chili. What the hell is wrong with me? Yeah, you did do that to yourself. I do not know what you were thinking. 1 to 4 in reach. Good. That's good luck, champ. Good luck, champ. Have you played Reach before? Have you played Reach previously? Is this like all new? Is this all new territory for you? Maybe Legendary afterwards? Ooh. I don't think you... Have you been playing it on Legendary? I'd feel bad if your first experience with Halo was playing Legendary. I played a lot of Halo when I was a kid, like pretty much just up to Halo 3 and Reach. I don't think I ever played 4. Greg's took away my donut. I can't believe it. Greg's. Oh my goodness. They're fucking crazy. Anna put so much fucking work into her stuff. It's usually why I tend to shout her name from the rooftops when I can. That shit's crazy. Production value through the roof. Only normal difficulty. I'll go back to do Legendary after I go through the first time. Are you going to do the skulls? Are you going to get all the skulls? Chat, you have to tell her about the Hayabusa armor. You're obligated to tell her how to get the Hayabusa armor. If I don't stand Anna, who would I stand? Good point. Good point. Very good point. Are the devil spawn in Halo 2 Legendary? Correct. Abso-fucking-lutely. All right, guys, let's get back to this video. They just kind of started, so we haven't even like got to the first burrito. I can still yap while this is going, but burrito. I thought it was going to be general burritos, but apparently it's all breakfast burritos. Jesus. Oh my God.
But after a breezy 55 minutes, I was sitting down to order my first burrito, featuring refried
55
pico de gallo, soft scrambled eggs, crispy potatoes, and bacon.
Thank you so much, man.
Ooh.
Would you look at the size of it?
Okay, the fact that the eggs were still like kind of slightly running, they weren't like overdone like a lot of breakfast burrito places will do.
Hash browns are ultra crispy.
This seemed to be like house-made refried beans. That was because they basically put them in it via what do you call it?
Next up, G's Coffee at the very tip.
They didn't look too bad. Refried beans always look rough.
Counter-served spot on the corner of 200
Candy store.
in Harlem. Breakfast burritos are a relatively new addition to the menu at
Avocado.
this coffee shop, but they've already gotten glowing write-ups in the New York Times and Eater.
Oh. $6 breakfast burrito? That's not the worst. At the place I like worked at when I was a teenager, we had really good breakfast burritos. Jesus. That's not a burrito, that's a pocket.
The burrito is stuffed to the rafters with fried eggs, bacon, potatoes, and huge hunks of avocado.
And this is, I think, the most important part, this sauce. This is killer.
Fuck yeah, dude. The sauce is always the best part with the breakfast burrito.
Avocado, it's lime juice, jalapenos, cilantro. It's very simple. The best food always is, right?
I was gonna say green sauces at places, mystery green sauces.
I'm gonna tell the good word about this.
Also a big fan of good tomato salsa. Archosaurus, thank you for the follow. Welcome in. How are you doing?
That was awesome, and it was like the quintessential New York.
It's kind of small compared to California. California.
Elevated food. Normally you get a breakfast burrito from a bodega. And it's
I had to make food to watch this. Lol. Listen, the things you gotta do.
That one is like special occasion, travel up.
I'm a red kind of guy. I like both. I'm always one who like not mixes salsas together, but like I jump between each bite with different salsas.
G's Coffee Shop.
But it also uses fried eggs instead of
killed it.
scrambled eggs.
Now to head to Ridgewood in Queens to check out.
I think I like that more.
Probably the newest kid on the breakfast burrito block.
Mini
Mama
Mart.
Yoshi's
Oh no,
pop-up
it's just
soap
Mini Mart.
opera
I thought it was an inn.
a permanent space in 2022. They sport an 8.4 on
Oh.
infatuation and frequently appear on top breakfast burrito.
Yo, the
lists.
Japanese
And I'm
cooler.
excited to try their burrito with a distinctly Japanese flair. This
Oh.
one features spam marinated in oyster sauce, which sounds good enough for me to eat, even as full as I already am.
Oh! Unless you put it on the fucking floor, Babish.
I was lucky. Looks really thoroughly grilled.
Unless you put it on the fucking floor. I think I also like that a lot of these burritos too also have the sears.
You got spam, cheesy eggs,
Ooh.
hash browns, some scallions in there for good measure. As it
Oh,
turns out,
that's
spam is
good
a
shit.
Perfect breakfast burrito meat. It's salty, fatty, and the oyster sauce just magnifies its characteristics. They don't make the burritos to order. and
Oyster
I
sauce is
have
also
them
usually, I think, a
less
little
than
bit
less than
sweet.
a
Hi,
day.
Cryptic. How are
Even
you
though it wasn't
doing?
the freshest, it would still cure even the most
Brown salsa, that was pretty interesting. I've had brown salsa. I've made black salsa. That's really good.
Trees. Look at those pretty ass trees. It really is summer.
Look at those pretty ass trees. That damn, this place is so goddamn gorgeous.
Only one of these spots.
I love like aggressive appreciation of things.
2 p.m. or until sold out. None of these
Does
other
anybody remember the
spots.
gif of the guy from like years ago that just goes, gorgeous?
I will heat it
Just right into the camera, but he looks so angry.
by 9:15. Ursula is a favorite amongst the BCU staff.
I'm good, how are you?
Almost
I'm doing pretty
everyone
good.
Has told me I need to try
Ursula.
It. Smack dab in the center of Bed-Stuy, it's also a local favorite. And
New Mexican inspired.
long
It's
ring.
turquoise!
They got their nice
No,
little
not the
ways to
turquoise!
avoid crowds, which are just large groups of other people.
I have trauma with turquoise. I grew up in a small rural town where white women were opening boutiques and selling turquoise jewelry everywhere.
That sounds great. Thank you so much. I took my server's advice and selected the carne adobada, or red chili, featuring egg, New Mexican red chili, and hash browns, which came out looking beautiful.
Oh my god.
They just
That's
gave
also a
us some
homemade tortilla.
queso, which I'm gonna try. Apparently, they're very famous for it.
Oh, you lost me. Oh, the
tender.
crisp.
Love this vegan queso.
It's
Gotta be
the
best
thin
tortilla I've had so
homemade
far.
vegan
Look how
queso.
glassy
What?
and shiny.
Is that what I heard?
Like, that's a sign.
Low
of a really
beats. Thank you for the
nice
30 stream streak. Holy shit,
tortilla,
dude.
Probably with lard, rich, deep
Turquoise trauma.
The adobo comes through. There's a nice heat to it.
I used to make salsa for parties when my family would like host parties and
It's got, like,
stuff.
a mustard essence to it. It's probably where they're getting the cheese flavor.
So I would
from.
make like a mixture of different kinds of
Really strong
salsas each
and
year.
front. Fabulous.
I still think my favorite one to make though was green salsa. And wait, was that a margarita?
Elements of some of these other burritos, but the tortilla was top notch. Eggs were super soft and cheesy.
Okay,
And,
I'm
the
definitely
pork
going to
was
see
just
weapons
super
tonight, but the
deeply
question
flavorful.
is,
And,
do I get
vegan
food
cheese sauce
beforehand?
Tech has come so far. We've come so far. As
Do I get a
species.
burrito?
Oh my God, there's a little birdhouse. See that? Oh, look. There's a bird.
Oh, it's a fake cardinal.
Pretty bird. You're a pretty bird. And by the way, I don't mean to like virtue signal or anything, but I just want you to know that none of this food's going to waste. I've managed to eat half of each of these burritos, so I feel like I'm gonna die. But the other halves, I've managed to find unhoused people to give them to. So none of this great food's going to waste. You know, I'm not trying to make myself
Okay.
sound like a hero, more like a saint. Like a reincarnated saint. Maybe Jesus.
I'm not a hero.
Jesus
I'm a
had hair.
saint. I'm a fucking saint.
Jesus had hair. All right, so now I'm headed into Bushwick, my first home.
Get food if you
in the
opt out for
city.
snacks.
Place where
I
get
always
Fred
get
Buzz,
snacks
Nick
though. I
Frost,
have to have snacks if I go to the movie theater. I always get the
And I'm
biggest
headed
bucket
to
of
a place
popcorn I
with
can.
undoubtedly the fanciest name of the bunch, Foster Sundry. Sounds like the opening act for.
I've heard that name
Mumford
before and I don't know why.
2012. Foster Sundry is a super high-end butcher with a coffee counter. and
That's
for breakfast, they offer a
probably
butcher-style
why.
burrito with bacon, pepper spread, and hot
Dicks!
cheddar
Thank you for the
cheese.
follow. Welcome
Highly
in.
recommended
With
on both
4
Uber and
X's, that's a
Reddit.
lot of
They were a
X's.
fittingly fussy final
Soda,
burrito
hot dog,
to
nachos. That'll be.
Let's take a look
Then
here.
you'll be having. No, I don't eat
First
nachos.
juice
I don't like the
today.
fucking shitty queso stuff.
Look at that. Let's see if it's as
Ooh,
fancy
bacon,
as it
tomatoes. I
claims
see
it
purple
is.
onions.
Whoa. What? That bacon is a new kind of crispy.
It
When
it does
dry
look
out
really
in the dark,
good.
The way crispy bacon usually is. Tortilla's great, light and flaky. They griddle
Okay.
it on 4 sides. That's impressive.
Hell yeah, dude.
And
Grilled
it's gotta
tortilla is
be
the fucking
the
best
most
for a
technically
burrito.
proficient
Places that give you just like a
burrito thus far.
raw
Menu
fucking
says
tortilla are
crispy hash
lazy.
browns in here. I do not detect
I want
any
that shit
crispy
grilled.
from that bacon. I'm so
Always.
sick of breakfast right now, but this is still really good.
I was getting slushy slash icy. I always get at least a large popcorn and a soda. Not a, well, I usually get the like combo, but which like forces me to get a large drink.
That was the most Bushwick guy I've ever heard in my entire life. I heard in the same breath, I heard rebranding, coping mechanism, COVID, producing.
Bushwood.
Trying to survive inside of his own head. I feel you, buddy. Oh, you know what?
Oh, also, I just realized there's hooks on the tables behind him. That's actually kind of cool. For bags, so you don't got to put them on the floor.
Because I'm sure they make their own bacon in house here. I think they leave the skin on it. Because that's what the crisp is like. It's like chicharrones. It's got that like big, hollow, glassy crisp. That's a seriously.
Oh yeah, that is pig skin.
I've never seen bacon with the skin on it, and it provides.
Neither have I. That actually sounds awesome.
I can taste the.
If I get a roster ticket, I'm sending that bitch back. Go put that shit on the grill. Go put that shit back on the grill.
Awesome. All right.
They did a mix of butter popcorn and kettle corn. I miss it. I don't like kettle corn.
I'm not going to be eating this recreation. My compatriots will. And they'll tell me if it's accurate based on what they've seen. Or not seen, because they haven't seen the footage, so what I tell them, perfect system.
Okay.
If I have to pick a winner...
Hi, Keyblade. How are you doing?
They're all incredible for their own reasons, and I would
welcome in. What trouble are you getting into today?
One of them again. But the one that I want to recreate the most...
I just realized the thing behind him is a fake fireplace.
It was off the beaten path. It was in like
the avocado one.
New York City corner store with counter seating. That was really cool. Wonderful family run.
Listen, counter seating, if I go to a place that has counter seating, you have like a 99% chance that's where I'm going to want to sit. I love counter seating.
Flavors like dark and spicy.
I'm not quite old enough yet that my back has given out, so I can still sit at bar stools.
Lime jalapeno salsa.
Trying to take over the world? How's that going? How is that working out? So how's the plans coming along? Is this doomsday kind of world takeover, or is this going to be like capture all the politicians world takeover?
Really sweet guy. I really recommend going up.
I got ostrich steak and rice. Ooh.
But if you don't live in New York City, or you don't have a monthly Metro card, totally understand. Or if you're shut in, I get it. I'm not making fun of you. I get it. I don't want to go outside either. That's why I'm going to recreate it now.
Just the fucking stare. Just the, I don't want to go outside either. Anyway.
Which is probably the name of a restaurant here somewhere. It's probably nice.
Listen, I like going outside. I like seeing things. I like doing things. But all that shit costs money now, and it sucks, so I don't most of the time.
I'm pretty sure that they were using
only recently have I started, like, instead of actually going to places where I can just pick up food and come home, I actually go and eat at restaurants. Which is why I've tried, like, that new burger place, that new brewery I went to.
So it's going to be a little different, but
and a bunch of other stuff.
Enough where if I didn't tell you, you wouldn't know. So why
we need to wake up early at the bar stools that he had. Aww. Hold on a second.
Potatoes, I'm going to parboil them, which means I'm going to peel these, cut them into bite-sized pieces, throw them directly into cold salt.
I coughed and then I hiccuped.
In there. It's going to help them.
And now my chest hurts.
I'm going to boil them until they're pretty much totally cooked. I want them fully cooked but not falling apart.
My secret layer was destroyed? Okay, so you've had some setbacks. Ow, fuck, that hurts. Ah!
I won't overthink the rest of it, I promise. Well.
Am I giving myself a collapsed lung? What the fuck?
So, I asked Chef Angel.
Why do these hiccups hurt?
I was certain there was tomatillos in the salsa because it was so pourable. And he said, no tomatillos, just avocado, lime juice, jalapenos, cilantro. That's it. And
wait, no tomatillos?
Cilantro, you know? Y'all know me.
No tomatillos in green salsa?
I don't like cilantro.
Interesting.
I'm going to put a little in there, simply out of respect.
Hold on, I need some water.
Well, out of respect. That's why that's the because. Must have been a lot of lime juice. Like I'm trying to figure out where all the water content came from. Maybe this is water. Let's see how thin it turns out. Let's fuck around and find out.
Let's fuck around and find out, baby. Cilantro, probably.
Lime juice, which will be nice.
It's probably the lime juice, honestly. Thank you for self-care. Okay, that's double drinking water because I was doing the last one of my own volition.
Sauce, nice and vibrant and green for longer. And this sauce was spicy, but not upsettingly so.
Trypophobia warning, kids.
One jalapeno, a big one, because I think
I had like a tickle in my throat and I went to cough, and the second I coughed, I hiccuped at the same time.
The veins and seeds, which I think lowers. I've
That
been
hurts
told
so bad.
Does not lower the spiciness, but I think it does. So go fuck yourself.
It does in
It's
fact lower the
imaginary
spiciness because
Californian
most of the
child
capsaicin
voice.
is
That
produced by the
doesn't make it less
seeds.
spicy. I'm like, yeah, it does. And my neighbors are like, you're out of your f***ing mind. So I'm screaming at the top of my lungs. It's a bad situation. Let's hit it with a little bit of salt.
We need to
This doesn't
scare the
look like
bows.
liquid.
Good luck. There's nothing here that can scare me right now.
Oh, I stand corrected.
Shitty nacho cheese. Oh God.
I don't. I stand corrected. I'm just gonna do another half of the lime.
Okay.
Still a little too thick. Yeah, it was very pourable.
I mean, it still sounded like you were kind of breaking stuff up in there.
That's the right amount of lime. I don't want to put any more lime in there. I think my only other option is tequila.
Steal some of Babish's knives.
Actually,
Okay, you can do
a
that.
little
He may
tiny
not
splash of
notice.
tequila would be good.
Just don't take the one that's
Just
over the fireplace. That one looks important.
tiniest. Boop. Just to inform.
Wait.
And also so I don't get.
Was that tequila?
Oh,
I missed it.
I have this ancho chili liqueur. I should have added that. That would have been sick. But now I'm gonna add a little splash of water just to thin things out. There we go.
Okay.
This is why I thought there was tomatillos.
Maybe it's because they make it in
Tomatillos
larger
have a ton
batches,
of
so there's
moisture.
more water
They make
content.
perfect sense in this salsa. But no, Chef Angel, I suggested that and he slapped me right in the mouth.
Darn, I missed my shot with the gargantuan booty grows missile. Listen, that keep firing those. Go ahead. Go ahead. See, maybe at some point you'll hit a decent target. Maybe at some point.
Hey, even this isn't about me.
This is about me.
All right, that looks like the right consistency.
Oh my God, is that pumpkin?
Making the mother of all omelets, dear Jack. Camp bread over every egg.
I know that little pumpkin bitch.
Is genuinely
I like that
spicy.
little
It has
pumpkin.
Great flavor, a great deep
Ooh.
roasted ancho flavor.
And
I think it
I don't
needs
like
that too.
pepper
It's
liqueurs.
so bright and fresh and loud, like it needs something to anchor it. I don't know what he's using. It's pissed me off. I'm only using this fancy
Magic,
craft
dude.
emulate with
Magic.
which is
And
why-
probably volume. Again, volume. You're making like enough for a couple servings. He's making hundreds of servings.
There we go. We're there. That liqueur helped anchor it a little bit and give it some like deeper, darker.
I don't know. I
flavors.
just never liked
And now it's a great mix of
fucking
spicy
cocktails and
bright
stuff that use peppers.
fatty. And, I think
and, like,
the thickness
spice.
is right too. If it's pourable, then it's right. Yep, that's exactly right. Beautiful. Let's see if it stays green. That's what I'm really curious about. At the end of the
I mean,
day,
there's
it's
an
all
avocado in there, so.
family.
Oh no, you put lime juice in there. It'll probably stay green. It'll probably stay green.
All right.
No, it's Armstrong. Yeah,
my
apparently I'm just getting
potatoes
fucking
cooked,
sucker punched by
drained.
Armstrong.
Now, while they're still nice and hot, I'm gonna spread them out on a rim baking sheet.
Oh, potatoes.
Allow the steam to escape while they cool, which is gonna dry them out. And the drier they are, the more crisp we can get them as hash browns. So, for
Okay.
So I probably
I did
have
not know this method. This is actually interesting.
3 tablespoons, quarter cup of corn oil in here, because to get really crispy taters, we need hot oil and we need a lot of it. They need to be basically shallow frying in there. We're gonna add them,
Okay.
and move them until they are brown. Then we toss them, get them brown on all sides, add the aromatics, let those fry for a little bit.
Wait, which aromatics are you throwing in? Was this the one that had the purple onions? No, it wasn't. That was an outdoor one. That was the turquoise one.
That's cool. That's cool.
That was Ursula's? I think is what it was called.
Not even gonna test it.
Fuck it, we
That was a
ball.
Huge mistake. No, it's all right. It's fine. It's okay. It's gonna be fine, Steve. I'm gonna give it a little toss just to coat everybody in oil, and then cranking the heat. Should be sizzling a lot more than that. I fucked up. I fucked up. But I'm just gonna tap these down with this.
You
block.
fucking blow it!
It's just what was within arm's reach. There we go. Tamp them down, and I'm not gonna touch them until they're brown. These mashed potatoes. Didn't want to
I think if I had a breakfast burrito rather than having like home fries like this,
these people at home. I'm just trying to step up. Somebody who's a little family-run business, making things by hand. All right, potatoes are looking good. You'll notice that I have the potatoes a little fatted.
I love cameraman
That's
betrayals so much.
bad. Don't do it.
I
I'm doing
love
this as a
cameraman
demonstration.
betrayals
It's not
so
'cause
much. They're so
I don't
fucking
wanna do
funny.
this. I have to show you what not to do. That's why the show is called Let's F Around and Find Out. I F around and find out so you don't have to.
Yeah. But no, if I'm making a breakfast burrito, I'd much rather have like
Might be
the
safe to
stringy
flip. Audience, what do you
potatoes
think?
than having cubed potatoes. Like hash browns.
All right. Those
Hash
look
browns, I
good.
think, are way better
You can hear how crispy
than
they are.
having just cubed home
They're
fries.
clacking. Okay.
Golden Ramsay saying this. Gordon
Look how
Ramsay.
fantastic those look. Just look. Thank you. Now, I'm gonna add
Just
the onions
straight up
and
onions.
jalapeno. It's just enough oil
Okay.
left in the pan to
Again, this is very. It was. I think I'm pretty sure it was. He said that it was a mart managed by a Mexican family.
Salt that's going to help the moisture.
So it does
get out
kind
the
of make
onions
sense
so
that
they
this
can
would
start
go into like the
browning.
home fries.
Otherwise, I'm going to let them just sit there until the onions have picked up a little bit of color. Oh, I just can't help myself.
Toss that bitch! Toss that bitch!
It's all right. This is a burrito filling. It's still perfectly burrito oriented. This is way too hoity-toity, dude. This looks like I'm about to serve this at Four Horsemen or something. Okay, at least I'm acknowledging that I'm f***ing up. I hope I'm not also nuking the crispness of the potatoes. Oh, that's going places. That's
Okay.
getting a job offer right before graduation.
Right before graduation.
Beautiful potato hash. Now, it's gonna wipe
Oh,
out the pan and
God.
fry up the bacon. Still nice and hot. This is good.
Bacon?
thin
All right, how are we
so
making
I
this
don't need
bacon?
to render
Did
out
you
the fat.
find
It's thick
your
bacon
skin
when I
on
start it in a
bacon?
cold pan. Maybe even add a
No, you
splash of
got
water
packaged
to let the fat
bacon.
render out. But this is so thin, it's gonna cook right up. Needn't
Well-
stand on ceremony. And I think 5 strips is gonna do us for one burrito. There we go.
Yeah, I'd say 5 for one.
This is something it took
Although
me
if you're
years
only
to
making
figure out
one,
for
you
some
made
reason.
so many fucking home fries, dude. And a
Because
lot of
when
sauce.
bacon's really thin, it wrinkles up and it creates this wavy pattern, so only parts of the bacon are making contact with the pan. You can
Correct.
see, after making this first flip, you can see that like it's only selectively browned. And bacon will brown from both sides. It's one of the beauties of bacon. Like if-
Listen,
as
one of
I'm
the first
frying it on
things I
this side,
literally
it's
learned to
hot
cook
enough
as a
that
kid
if
was
it's buried in
bacon.
enough fat, it will brown
Not
both
even
sides.
joking.
So
There was a point where I
by cooking
graduated
frequently,
from
you're
wanting
letting more
microwave
fat
bacon
render
to
out.
just
You're
fucking
giving it
frying up my own
heat
bacon.
exposure. Yeah.
And I was like, I'm gonna do it my way. Because all you motherfuckers do it wrong. Y'all keep giving me this crispy shit bacon. No, I want my chewy fucking bacon.
Congenital,
Be very, very quiet. We're being calm. I'm sorry, I'm not very good at being quiet. I speak very boisterously.
Source of crunch, really. I mean, other than the
Chat, am I too loud? Am I being too loud for the quiet day? You might, no, I was talking about when I was a really little kid. Microwave bacon was the thing. It's still technically a thing. It's basically pre-cooked bacon that you throw in the microwave for like 30 seconds to a minute.
4 eggs for one burrito. Seems reasonable.
It's kind of garbo, but it was like it was easier for my parents to buy that and let me and my brother make it for ourselves than to like try and teach us how to cook bacon at the time. And then eventually we learned to cook bacon, and that shit just disappeared. That shit was no longer in the house.
Which means something.
Why are we being quiet? Because I promised a quiet day.
Tiny splash of water. So
Water.
between the eggs and the salt, that is going to give us a really smooth bowl full of eggs.
Wait, didn't this place do fried eggs?
On that claim. There we go. Nice, smooth.
The place
no
he's trying to
streaks
copy though did
of
fried
yolk
eggs, didn't they?
Or whites, just egg, but not just egg, which is that egg.
He's making scrambled instead of the fried eggs that this particular place did.
It's just egg.
Setting to 100. Let's get the dead to rise up. Oh no. Quiet? Not on my watch? Okay. I'm sorry. Oh. What time? Butter. Slow cook your eggs.
Softer, creamier the result. And I don't want these to be Radisson Inn buffet eggs, but I don't want them to be French scrambled either. I want them to have nice, big, soft curds. That means no sizzling, no browning, and over medium-low heat, just, occasional movement. As soon as you see things starting to
I like my, oh, hello.
So this is
Where have I
exactly what I'm
gone?
looking for.
I have been
nice,
censored.
big
How could
curds.
you?
These are just Daddy's scrambled eggs. Dad's doing his best kind of scrambled eggs.
This is better than what my dad would make. My dad would always like over fucking cook scrambled eggs. That man was a coward. He liked crispy bacon and he would overcook his eggs.
Exposed. Get my precious tortillas.
Grow up, old man.
Here's the prettiest tortilla of all.
What did he see, Pavel? Hi, Orla.
Tortillas, man. You can see practically right through them.
What do you mean? I mean, that's exactly why I'm kind of holding him back here. See, if I just let him go, it's
I'm
just...
just going to toast the tortilla on one side because I just want to make it pliable and then the outside is going to get thoroughly toasted. We don't want to dry it out. So down it goes onto a nice hot griddle.
Anyway.
We're just trying to
Anyway.
warm it up, get it nice and crunchy and flaky throughout, but not too crunchy. Don't want to dry it out. There we go. See, just a little bit of color.
Okay.
That's all we need. All right, so now to make it happen.
Don't you mommy sorry me. Also, hi Trip, how are you doing?
So maybe use 4 eggs and not
Eggs.
5, like an
Eggs.
idiot. I'm gonna throw these down, then hit them with the bacon.
Oh,
Then hit
oh
'em
it's too
with
crispy.
Taters. It is a
Taters.
very off ratio. What I'll do is I'll add the eggs. I'm probably just not going to use all this filling because there
Are we-
was too much other shit.
Oh, he's making it like uniform. We're making a chopped burrito.
I forgot that they do something very specific that I'm going to do right now.
Booba explosion, booba explosion. Oh, you're talking about the one that was like the trend for the while where people were like redrawing it based off of a lady from like the early 2000s wearing a latex t-shirt with buttons on
A
it.
mixture of cheddar and pepper jack. Also, this is a very important little
Pepper
secret
jack
to keep
only.
in mind when it comes to cheese. You want to give it a try. Make sure it's cheese. Yeah, it's cheese.
That's definitely
And
cheese.
always double check. Always.
Always gotta make sure.
Yeah, you don't want to get this wrong. Third time's the charm. Just double.
Just gotta make sure it hasn't changed after the first 2 bites.
Just a little bit. If I had done it the whole time that tortilla was toasting, it'd be a different story. Should have just gotten a new tortilla. Not thinking clearly. It's okay. All right, we have our toasted
We'll see how
cheesed
okay it
tortilla,
is.
The nice hot bacony eggy filling, which I should be piling a little bit more strategically.
Again, I don't think he put enough potatoes in there. Usually there's a lot more potatoes in a breakfast burrito.
Chunks of avocado. There we go. And then they spread a little bit of this salsa on there, just a bit. So
Hell
to
yeah.
roll the burrito, standard procedure
Hell
is
yeah.
to get up to about here. Kind of try to pack everything in so it knows you love it, and then fold up the sides like so, and take it the rest of the way home. Not my best work, but not my worst either. It's a handsome looking burrito, I should say.
All right, now put a little bit of cheese on the outside and then sear it. There you go.
Seam side down.
There
It's
you
gonna
go,
seal it
bud.
shut.
Always
And it's almost
seam
burrito.
side down first.
Also, I'm doing something I've always wanted to do my entire life. I'm wrapping it in actual restaurant quality sandwich paper. Now this, I don't know how to do properly. I know how to roll a burrito, but this
I mean, you
don't-
basically do it the
I don't
same way.
know. What do you do? Let's f around and find out. All right, we got some great color there. It's sealed shut. I'm gonna flip
Extra
it over.
flaky
Press it down
tortilla.
again.
Extra
I think it's gonna
flaky.
be a pretty dankerito.
That's one of the places, my favorite place to go get a burrito. It's kind of hit or miss when they do this. When they do the like seal the side, they'll actually put cheese down on the grill first
Beautifully try to wrap it.
and
I
then put the
presume that you
seam
bring
side
these just
down.
like a
So then the cheese
burrito. You
melts
bring
to the
these sides
burrito
in
and
now
seals the
The
burrito.
rest of the way. Yeah, that looks pro as f. Now, one of the more essential
Seam
steps
side
in
down. Are
burrito
you
wrap
okay?
and sandwich
Are you okay,
is to let
Sunstar?
it
Do you need a
sit.
hand?
You gotta let the burrito
What is
soften
that?
up. You gotta let
That
the
is
tortilla
a
soften up,
look.
and that's it.
You're looking at me pretty. Mm-hmm.
But you gotta do it. You little bastards. You're gonna have to wait about 1 minute. Okay, that's been enough time.
All right, hold on a
So,
second.
Yeah, that's how you do it. Let's take a look at that cross section. Let's see if I came close. I mean, looks pretty fucking good. That looks.
Oh, okay. That notification I have is
Not
just
quite like
the
theirs. They're
when I went
definitely
live
more
alert. I was like, why do I have a notification on the
That's all right, though.
Discord?
That looks pretty close.
It's a
So
pretty
now,
good-looking
I need my taste
burrito.
testers, Steve and Nico, to tell me if it tastes the way that it looked in the footage.
Huh? Wait, they didn't have the other
This show's
ones?
gonna work. All right, fellas. Here, I'll up
That's
camera.
how this show's going to work. That's so stupid.
Yeah, you're right. Fine. Fine, Steve. I'll
You
eat
want to
it.
take
Eat
one
this
bite? Yes, I
crap.
do.
It's
Give
not
me.
gonna be good. I'm kidding. This is gonna f***ing rock. Yep.
Dead. Just dead on the spot. Never mind. This one's mine. Y'all can't have it.
Right in there. That's really, really, really good. It's
Wait, is there a
super
piece of
balanced,
is there a piece of the
really
wrapper
rich,
stuck
eggy, cheesy bacon
right there on
and
the
then
like the
this
right side of the burrito?
fresh motherfucker just cuts right. Stop it. The flavors are all there. The bacon's there.
I removed it. It was
Potatoes are
part of the
just, like,
wrapper.
fairly crunchy, like they're mostly just soft at this point. This brings a nice fresh hit of
What you
spicy
doing,
acidity.
beef?
And you got the
What you
richness of
doing there,
egg,
boss
the crisp
man?
Bacon, and the really crispy. That's key. This no other place. They griddled their tortillas, but none of them were this
Oh.
flaky or crispy. So you got to really toast the
True.
inside and the outside of it. No notes, me.
Good job. Pat on the back.
Now try it. Look out for foil.
Yeah.
Okay, I did too much.
No such thing.
You'll live. You'll be fine. Oh, the crunch.
Oh my god.
That's what I said when I was there at the restaurant.
Jesus Christ, dude.
Oh my god.
We just had Food Wars cutscenes. Yeah, it was his clothes. We're lucky his clothes didn't explode off of him.
The sauce is really so killer. Big difference.
Also, the chat, if you've never seen Food Wars, you should go watch Food Wars.
Thanks.
It's actually, shockingly, the methods that they use in that show,
you guys are-
they're real. That's not even a joke.
Steve,
Like,
that's the
it's actually good cooking advice
Yes, it's good.
disguised as a horny fucking
If we learned
anime.
One thing today, it's that my dick is Michelin star.
Was
Even though
grilled Cajun sausages. Ooh, Cajun are in doing.
Yukon Golds and brown eggs and all this stuff. Like, it captured the spirit of the burrito that I had in Washington Heights. It's
Foodgasm, the
same
anime.
set of
Food Wars makes me
flavors,
hungry. I
textures,
agree.
And intentions, as was done by Chef
I always think about the bear
Still, that being
croquette
said, it is
episode.
still nothing better than an imitation. And if you
Oh,
can,
goodness.
you owe it to
Oh, the
yourself
hiccups.
to go up to 207th Street. It's a nice, quiet little neighborhood. Hit that corner store. G's.
It's not you thereafter,
Best
it's your
breakfast burrito
cooking.
I've ever had. Thank you so much
Hell yeah.
to Golden Diner.
Good series, though. You
G's
should go watch
Coffee,
it.
Foster Sunday,
If not, go read the
Mami
manga.
Yoshi, and
I don't know how
Star
I don't remember how
Citizen.
detailed it is in the manga about like the
I
steps.
hope you guys like the show.
I do know the
It's a
show
long
has
element. I had a
like
lot of
detailed
fun doing
step
it.
by
Got
step
the
of some
steps
of the
in.
methods that they use.
Ripped. As a result, I'm yoked now. My calves are insane. You don't even want to
What the? Are you twirling a hammer?
Zac Efron's arms. So I hope you guys enjoyed this. Let me know.
Where
what
did you
wanna
get
see
the
me go
hammer?
out and find, maybe try to recreate next. And get a breakfast burrito in you. You're hungover. Now's the
Get a breakfast burrito. Get a breakfast burrito. All right, kids. Y'all ready to do some drinking right after breakfast? This is just a goofy. You don't need to know. A hammer store, obviously. That's a pretty big hammer. All right, kids, get your infinity bottle ready. We're putting everything in the house inside this bottle.
And in that time, I've acquired a lot of bottles. A lot of bottles. Sometimes people ask me, Greg, how many bottles do you have? And I would say,
Some.
I don't know, a lot. And I
Oh, it
tried to
froze.
count.
Why am I
Well, I did
frozen?
some. I bought one of these little county guys, and I counted them. And by my
Oh.
count, it's like 439. Although some of that might be duplicates, and some of that I know I haven't counted because there's a stash of bottles in the kitchen that I actually like to drink. So let's say we have somewhere between 400 and 500 bottles. Maybe we'll get a real answer here. Before
Where do you keep all
in
those?
fact,
Where
I'll
are
reset
they?
this and I'll click it as I add. And I thought, wouldn't it be fun to mix them all together? Wouldn't it be just so much fun to build? There's this thing. I
Oh,
already know
good.
this, I don't know
Not
if
into
it's a
the
thing anymore,
fucking
but they
glass
call
of
them
whiskey
infinity bottles, where it's
decanter.
like, I got a little bit of bourbon left. I'll put it in the infinity bottle and I'll make a note. And then you have this bottle of bourbon that's your own.
We're
house
making
blend or
kitchen
whiskey
sink
or whatever.
liqueur.
always
It's
full,
just
but
gonna be
never
so
empty, and
heinous.
It's always changing.
This is gonna be so heinous.
This will be the infinite infinity bottle. This is every liquor, all in one, all sorts. Today on how to drink. So I'm gonna.
I'm
actually
kinda
reset
scared.
This guy.
What color do you think
And
this
I'm
is gonna
start
come
with
out
what's
to?
Right here. To facilitate this, I bought these extra long pipettes, and
Oh.
we're gonna use these. So let's just start with Wyoming whiskey. What the heck? If we assume
Okay.
about 500 bottles, we want to do somewhere between 1 and 1.5 milliliters per pour. I spaced these out, and I know where that is roughly. That's about a mil. Boop. Click.
Oh
It's
no,
gonna
this
be
is
a
gonna
long
take
night.
forever. How do you think he spent all day
Did the
doing
math.
this?
He did the math. Click. Meredith says I should not do duplicates. I think that's fair. Click. I think.
Okay,
maybe
are they
wine,
duplicates
no,
as in
but
exact same
vermouth,
brands,
yes.
or is this duplicates? I doubt this is duplicates as in whiskey. Like you can only do one whiskey. Brought out the shower caddy. Oh my god. I'm actually kind of surprised by how brown it is. I honestly thought it was gonna end up being like really black or
That's
something.
500 bottles I got in there. We got 500 bottles in there, but I remembered that I have this fig brandy that I made a little while ago, and I never put that in there. So let's get our milliliter or two of that in there. And
Okay.
I just made mango liqueur. So we'll put that in there now. And that brings us to 502 bottles.
All right, take a
So
shot,
that's
kids.
awesome.
Take a
Now
shot
I
of
can
this
put that in
shit.
the thumbnail. More than 500 bottles. That'll be great.
I don't like
know what
this.
You want me to do? You want me to see how it tastes? I gotta see a little smoosh of it. And what do we need to
It's
have
probably
blend
gonna
to
taste
it
like
with?
absolutely.
Come on down, Meredith. Come on down.
not miss this. It's all the bottles we've collected over the
See?
Oh,
She's
good
not
lord.
buried in my basement.
Not the fucking LSU flannel.
Still
Good
exists.
lord.
All right, Mare. Cheers.
Louisiana State University, baby. Purple yellow. Nobody runs from these tigers.
Genuinely
It's so weird. It's like herbal licorice-y.
good. Yeah, herbal licorice mildly. I think there's a lot of chocolate.
I was gonna say
notes in
that.
there.
I mean, there's
Some
probably
mint notes. I get
like
a lot of
fucking.
what
Is the
happens in
second you
Angostura.
put like chartreuse or Jägermeister or something similar to Jägermeister in there,
Just from what's in there,
it's really
it's gotta be
overpowering.
Just under, or maybe even just above 40%.
Is that what you have in your tower? Is this shit that turns you into a wizard?
Anything that you make,
Maybe.
this is gonna come through.
Maybe.
Yeah, the chartreuse cuts through. I would actually say, if I had to
That's
sum
right,
it up
chartreuse.
in one sentence, I would say chocolate chartreuse.
Yeah, sweet. A little sweet.
Chocolate chartreuse.
It's so
It's not bad at all.
Hmm.
I got some taste.
Oh, ad break.
There it is.
All right, kids. I'm gonna go stand up, stretch my legs for a little bit. I will give you all the music, and we will be back in a little bit. Let me give you also GOS. All right. Don't burn anything down. Good luck, kids. Up-up-up-up-up-bum. Have fun. Oh, you know what? We have 4 arms now. All right. Wait, I restarted it. Why isn't it going? Did it change the fucking link? There it is. Fucking, I'm sorry, chat. I don't know why it did that. Okie dokie. Ah, son of a bitch. Me and all my arms are very disappointed in you, Sunstar. How could you? It happens. It happens. How could you? How could you? Also, hold on. I got to snack on something. When do you have so many arms? Oh, don't worry about that. It's fine. Mini skirt. Mini skirt, wood axe. Platforms? Sandals. Power drill. Pear? Axe. Hunting? Drill. Microphone. Mic. What the fuck is that bottom middle one? Seamstress? Sewing? Grandchild's? Karaoke? Waiter. Oh, I put water. No! Damn it. All right. Put you away. Get out of here. Back to the month. Wait, this is only the beginning? Wait, what? Okay, we're making actual cocktails after this.
502 liqueur. So why don't we see what we can do with it for cocktails? I usually put it through.
Oh, you're making cocktails out of it. Oh, no.
Well, let's start there. That's always a safe place to start.
Was they starting with something that tastes like chocolate chartreuse?
This is the first episode I've done in the new studio.
How do you like it?
That's so cool. We'll have to do a studio tour soon.
Yes.
All right.
By the way,
Oh, but is that another spin emote?
Meredith,
Yeah.
where will the folks find it? Why?
That's
they're gonna
probably the
find
most
it on
detailed
the How to
spin
Drink
emote I've ever seen.
Patreon. They
Good
will
lord.
also get access to our private Discord, where our mods
No!
run Secret Santa, and I think actually they're doing a Secret
No!
Last Word formula, which, by the way, I did an episode on how you can use it to make cocktails on the fly.
Last
Super
word.
easy. We're gonna do it right now. I don't need my shaker. There it is. This could work with lemon, but I'm gonna stick with lime. Start with 1 ounce of lime juice. I know I'm gonna need that. I haven't really thought
Okay.
through the rest of this just yet, but I know an ounce of lime juice is going into this.
Yeah,
drink.
time to be analytical about these drinks, even though he probably knows more than I do.
Stuff
He definitely knows more than I do. Because I don't know the last word off the top of my head. Not interested in the Greg
But I did
server.
say it was basically
I'm already in the Greg server.
chocolate. So let's do that. Let's just use a whole ounce of it and
Shut
use
up.
the sub chartreuse. So that's our herbal liqueur, and I'm gonna.
Bet they don't have a pineapple enjoyer roll? What do you mean?
Or an Amaro. An Amaro would be good too. Something
Every server should have a pineapple enjoyer roll, and I should have it in every
Yeah,
server.
An ounce of Montenegro. That's delicious. Floral notes. I got a hunch that I'm gonna favor some bitterness in there, so I will add 1 dash.
Angostura?
Fernet for a base.
Oh,
bit.
Fernet
I'm gonna be
bitters.
looking at a bottle of Flor de Caña rum. I think that's a good choice, actually. I think that'll be perfect here.
This
Anyway, if
is
you're looking for a Cuban rum in the U.S., if you're
a
looking
very
for, like,
interesting
Cuban
mix.
replacement for Havana Club 3-year, Flor de Caña is the way to go.
So why don't you have it in yours? Oh,
Same 7-year or
because I thought it was pointless because I couldn't think of any other questions besides the do you like pineapple on
glass,
pizza?
And I need some ice.
No, just some things. We need a popcorn enjoyer. I like popcorn.
We need a name for this now. Oh, obviously, it's the last exit. If it's the last
It's not the
word
last
with the
word,
Jersey
it's the last
Turnpike,
exit.
That's the last exit.
With the Jersey Turnpike. Fuck off.
It's not great.
Of course it's not great. Wrong
Under speak,
exit.
under speaky. Not a fan of that. Okay, we missed the mark there. Maybe I should do it again. I've successfully created.
Take a jug
Lavborn
handle? Oh
tile.
no.
Okay, well that's cool.
EWR,
That tells me a
EWR.
lot. So maybe instead of the Amaro Montenegro.
Oh, I don't know what
we'll
EWR
do
is.
chartreuse on this one, and maybe instead of.
He means
the
maraschino?
we'll
Okay.
Older rum, and then
I don't-
might even back sweeten it.
I don't see a bottler recognized of maraschino back there, but
Dorley's Barbados rum. Another ounce. Of
I used to have a bottle of maraschino, and it comes with like a little like not quite wicker, but like bronze like wrapped around it. So it's usually pretty easy to spot.
XO fine Barbados rum. It's a mark of aging. I just forget what it means.
Hmm.
43% and 1 ounce of maraschino.
There it is.
Give that a taste. Maybe the Jersey Turnpike is the base. spirit.
See, it's wrapped in that stuff right there. It was he had it somewhere else. It was somewhere else. All right. Maybe once we move, I'll be able to start rebuilding my bar collection.
Nice. It still has this.
Oh no! Oh no! I have to get a bar safe too. Sai's gonna drink it. Sai's gonna drink it.
I like that a lot. Has like a.
No, Sai, you can't touch the liqueur. Let me make you a cocktail first.
Yeah, it has like a floral note too. It ends on a pretty bitter, tart tail. It rides it out, but not in a way like in a palate cleansing kind of way. I don't know. I don't hate it. What do you think, Mare? I like it. What do you think of that? Is that all
It's
right?
good. Yeah,
we fixed it.
The Luxardo like just makes that last word, rounds out that last word flavor.
There it is. The last exit. That'll be
The last
word
exits
/
finally
sour
come together.
Unless another sour format.
They finally finished construction after this long on the last exit.
To do this as a tiki drink.
Well, let the mods get to the drinks. You can't have the drinks. Let me make you a cocktail.
This reminds me.
Ordain's not allowed to drink.
In terms, like we won't need anything.
I forbid it. I forbid Ordain from drinking. Sneaks the mods some whiskey. Where did you get whiskey?
Kind of tiki-like. I think if we
No smoking outside the designated smoking area. Yes.
Maybe throw in
Correct.
one wild card. We're gonna be.
Jokes on you, I own a whiskey bottle. Is it empty? Is it just a whiskey bottle? Do you also own the whiskey?
As I am wont to do. Or there maybe this time we'll split it with lemon. That happens sometimes in the world of tiki. Half an ounce of each.
Oh.
Half an ounce of lime.
Also, yes, get a juicer, kids. I'll say that every time. Every single one of you should own a juicer like that. It's like $5.
Channel. We're gonna do 1/4 ounce of that. I'm also
Cinnamon
gonna put
syrup.
Like a 1/4 ounce of orgeat. My
Ooh.
portion. I want to get to about 3/4 of an ounce of sweetness. There we go. That leaves me.
He has so many interesting syrups because he's made them himself.
Turnpike.
That
1/4 ounce of
I'm
lemon
always
Heartland
surprised by it.
51. This is a Demerara.
Okay, never uses it.
Let's do a 1/4 ounce.
Wait, what do you
of
mean?
juice, and I'm gonna do 1 ounce.
The
of
juicer?
pineapple.
Oh, you have the juicer. That's what you're talking about.
Really trying to get like.
Find things to use lime juice with. Start making Mexican food at home.
By the way, if you're a Dune fan, the spice melange is not the name of the spice. It just means a mixture. Actually, I don't know if the correct
Yeah,
translation
spice
is, but
mix.
melange is like a
Spice
mixture of
melange.
Spices or ingredients.
Oh,
That's
I
a
need to make a
fruit juice,
redeem for the
lemon
fucking
roll,
the Chuckles
and I
thing
think
where
a
he's
little bit more
where he
rum
does
balance
the
that.
whole like
Looking at
monologue from fucking
bottle
Dune.
of Appleton
The
Estate.
spice must
So
flow!
Let's do 3/4 of an ounce of Appleton Estate Jamaican rum. I totally lost count of everything I put in there, but I bet it'll work out. It'll be good.
Hey, will
Let's
it?
shake that
Will
up.
it? Will it work out? Is it gonna be fine? Crushed ice.
Get some crushed ice in there. That into a tiki mug.
Tiki
A
mug.
little more crushed ice.
Does that count as tiki if it's like obviously supposed to be like a metal band's
Get some mint in
like
Whenever you
Shrunken
use mint to
Skull?
drink, make sure you don't have a long straw. I like these straws a lot. I will actually put a link to them in the video description today. They're made of agave, I think. They
Oh.
behave and feel exactly like plastic straws. They break down in 6 months though. But I always cut them
That's
off
kind of neat.
because I want your nose to be in that mint when you drink the drink. What would be like the Jersey version of Mahalo?
Wait, that's actually Jersey
yeah,
tiki.
right.
Oh no.
That's awesome. I really like that. Oh my. All the flavors are in there. All of them.
This little bottle had to buy the bourbon separate. Oh my god.
It starts to remind me of banana, but what I think
It does give the like voodoo-ish style head. I wouldn't call it a tiki cup.
you get
It looks very much
pineapple,
like a voodoo
tart
head of some
citrus,
kind, yeah.
Spice. It's very.
I still think it looks
Caribbean.
like a
actually think
shrunken
it's
head to me.
touch boozier, so I might kick up that 151 real quick.
Eyes,
let's do
mouth
that.
are
I'm just
sewn.
gonna reshake it real
There's like a
fast.
bone
I
protruding
really
from
like
one
the way
end of
it
it.
tastes, though. So I put in a 1/4 before. Let's put in, oh God,
Oh God.
3/4 of an ounce of 151 Demerara Magic Funk. If
Making a
you're
separate
keeping
drink
track,
or adding it?
shake. And I
Shaking
hope
it back
you are
in?
keeping track.
I hope you're keeping track. Yeah, it's recorded. It'll be fine.
Boy, that kind of threw it off a little bit. It's good. We're close. We're close. Now I need to balance it back the other way. I
Oh,
want,
good
like,
Lord.
another
Oh, good
half an
Lord.
ounce of lime juice.
Again, this is with the like everything bottle, right?
First time. Damn it. No, that's good. It's good. It's good. It was better the first time, but it's good. I'm getting more.
You
of the cinnamon
fucked it.
now. I like
You
that.
fucked
I'm still
it.
getting those pineapple and grapefruit.
When it comes to alcohol, I adore pina coladas or
Also
mixing some
getting
tropical
all
fruit
the
juice with some
weird
Malibu coconut rum.
spices that
Listen,
are
I like
in
my
the
fruity
Jersey
cocktails.
I've
I
seen
love
that.
fruity cocktails.
That in the
To this
Jersey
day, though, if I had to have what like a heavy kind of fancy-ish cocktail,
Chartreuse.
a Reanimator is
Once
still
you
my
start
favorite.
Breaking apart with other ingredients.
I
lots
really
of
like
other shit
Reanimators.
could come to the fore
The
quite
thing is, though, if you get a Reanimator at a
And it
restaurant,
does
they're
have
always
a
like tiny.
desire to
They're
trim
real small.
That said, I actually
Ooh,
think
but a
it's pretty
mojito
cool.
is really good.
Again,
I had a
I'm now
crazy
getting
good mint
sweeter
mojito.
again to counteract some of
Like
the other stuff that's going on there.
3 months
Specifically in
ago.
the almond direction,
We went to
I
an
do
oyster place.
not
We went to an
quite
oyster
have
restaurant,
ounce on the
and on their menu they had a mojito,
It's
and it
still
was
very
awesome.
boozy. That fixed it.
Oh, okay. And that was in his
Right,
mouth.
Meredith.
It looked at
That's
my end.
cool.
It looked like it was in his
It has
nose.
a, approaches nicely. Almond.
If you
well, tell
like
me.
pina coladas.
Go back to your mic.
Oh, I'd have to.
Meanwhile,
taste
Ursane,
double
I already
six
own a
to
full
really
bottle of
get that
whiskey.
one.
I'm stealing your bottle of whiskey.
Don't have like the palate.
It
that
is
you have
confiscated until
necessarily.
special
It's
drinking
very-
nights.
It's a lot of fruit juices.
It's mine
Toss
now.
that
For
to you in
sure.
a tiki bar. Would you finish it?
What is this brand? Is this a Dutch
hell
brand?
yeah.
It better not be a Dutch brand. What the fuck is Dutch whiskey?
That's like the real question, in my opinion. Now, what do you say? What do you get beyond that?
There's something
Okay.
different about it from that I'm not like on the back note. Maybe it's just the spices.
Yeah.
That's like the late arriving
I'm pretty sure he has a more recent video on like,
space is really.
oh,
nice.
what was it?
Yes. it does
Like
kind of move
the
out of
worst,
sweetness.
was it American cocktail? I think it was something like that.
Like, if you're thinking in tiki terms, it does have.
I can't have whiskey, beer, rum, but I can have clear alcohols. Why is that?
But it fills a similar role.
Hi,
on
Rama.
a
How are you
tiki
doing? What trouble are you getting into? What shenanigans are you up to? Have you burned anything down today?
If that makes any sense.
If you haven't, I highly recommend it. It's a
All
fun,
you need to
stress-relieving
make
activity.
is 502 bottles.
All you need
Watch
is
Marin take
500
Ordain's
bottles.
whiskey and give it back to them with only a droplet of whiskey left.
In there that I don't hate.
Please, sir, may I have some more?
Unusual. I don't know what I
More?
found
You
quite
want
that
some more?
Drinks, which is good. It has a really
No arson day,
briny
just relaxing?
feel, which I also actually weirdly.
That doesn't compute.
drinks
Arson is
outside.
rock.
It is balanced.
I'm kidding. Good, yeah. Today is. That's why we're doing food again, food stuff
If I was
and
gonna build this
beverages
again,
and stuff
now,
again
not right
today.
now, I would probably go back to that.
It's
first
to
fermentation
relax.
And make smaller
I'm doing pretty
tweaks in
good.
there.
Today's been pretty decent. I'm gonna go see Weapons later tonight, so I'm very excited for
Now
that.
it's like maybe a little overly tart.
I'm still trying to figure out though if I'm gonna go eat dinner beforehand and then go to the movies, because regardless, I am getting popcorn.
But on the whole, it's good.
Although I did
and
find out
it's a fun
recently,
basis for a
apparently
drink. Just so
there's
you guys
a
know,
Korean
we live streamed all
hot pot or
500
barbecue
bottles
place
going
right
through
next
that
door
thing
to the movie
across
theater
2
now
different days.
that opened up since I've last been to the movie theater. And I kind of want to go see if they have like solo person sets that I could get. Because I've never had Korean barbecue.
In practice,
It's Johnny Walker Red Label? Okay, never mind, you can keep that.
But it's gonna take a while.
Exley More Banjo. Thank you for the follow. Welcome in. Damn, I wish I still had my banjo.
You have minimum.
I don't have my banjo. I haven't had my banjo since like high school.
The recipe for it.
The Jersey Turnpike would be its own ingredient that would go into
Yes.
This drink is really hard to describe, but there is something about it that keeps making me come
That's the
back
first
to
house
it,
someone
so
put.
it must
Oh,
be
I'm sorry.
pretty
Is
good.
it somewhere else?
I'm
Zymore?
having a really hard time.
Zymore
placing my
Banjo?
finger on it. That
Zymore
might
Banjo?
be the mark of a good
Mojo
tiki
Jojo?
drink, actually. I don't know. But, you know, tiki drinks can evolve and be workshopped kind of indefinitely. So we've done a tiki drink, which I usually...
Are you part of the plot?
We've done a last word. I should
Zymore?
do some kind of
Zymore?
stirred drink with this.
Feed me, Seymour.
Classic cocktail. And to do that, I'm going to throw this mint down.
Zymore, but banjo is fine too. Banjo.
Flavor profile to me calls to mind something like a hanky panky, and I
Is that-
picked the hanky panky.
Is that a
Going
bottle
off
of
memory.
juice behind him?
Mostly a Manhattan that has.
Well, that looks like orange juice, but I can't figure out what the other juice is behind it. Maybe it's pineapple. No, it looks like carrot juice.
Combine it with a sweet.
What is wrong with that type of whiskey? Nothing. You can. I just said you can keep it. Don't worry about it, Dordain. Don't need to think about it too much.
Vermouth. I actually had an idea.
Oh, your Final Fantasy character. What do you play as? I gotta know.
See which one.
I gotta know.
Is interesting. And then this was a wild card.
I'm a fisher.
Actually, this is pretty cool. House Alpen sent this over.
My favorite class is fisherman.
But it is a hay.
Followed immediately by Culinarian.
And I think it's really
and then Taylor.
fascinating. Okay, so this is
and then Warrior.
the Baldoria Rosso.
What's your favorite? What's your main in Final Fantasy 14? Fisherman.
Wow.
I like playing fisherman.
Vermouth is supposed to taste like.
I like going fishing and catching ingredients and cooking them into meals for other guilds.
But if you look at the description of what vermouth is supposed to taste like, it is supposed to be herbal and
I also used to do the same thing in WoW.
Loud. And
I started as a floor tank, obviously the Dragoon. Swapped to Dark Knight. Dark Knight's pretty fun. I don't remember. I think it was.
They're pretty tricky to find.
The Blood expansion was the one that I played Dark Knight in.
But I know
for like the entire expansion, and then I went back to Warrior. I'm too angry to die. I do have a lot of other classes I play. I like playing Summoner. I like playing a lot of the healers. I especially like Astrologian. Stormblood, that's it. Yeah, Stormblood.
This is their red dry.
You know, my brain honestly said Tiger's Blood, and I knew that wasn't correct. I just remembered all the tigers in that expansion.
I don't like that. That tastes like something I would, like pine stuff I would clean a floor with. Sorry, we won't be using that.
It tastes like fucking pine sol. That's pine sol, baby.
Very sweet, fruity. But this is the Alpine Alpeggio hay liqueur.
Alpine?
Traditional somewhere.
Okay, if that bitch doesn't smell like a fucking log cabin and pine trees, I don't want it.
But in a very pleasant way. And
there's always something special about being up in the mountains in a log cabin, the smell of pine all around you.
Sweetened and boozified. That is weird.
And wanted to play it the most. Ooh, that makes sense.
And unique, and I've never had anything quite like it. I don't know that.
I like a lot of the casters. Oh goodness, just because they make their attacks really cool. Oh, I have the hiccups again.
Let's go with 1.5 ounces.
I had the hiccups earlier and they started to hurt.
This was hard enough to make. I don't necessarily need to make more right now. Although I suppose.
Go on, bud. Good time to make the nightmare.
Comes into the bar. I have to add about 1 milliliter of it. That's 1.5 ounces of our Jersey Turnpike. I'm gonna go with 3/4 of an ounce.
Oh, okay. He's calling the everything fucking thing the Jersey Turnpike. Gotcha.
I'm gonna do something a little bit weird.
I did not. I completely. I thought it was the.
My glass here.
Oh no, that was the cocktail. The last word became the last exit.
We're really just kind of doing everything in these drinks, aren't we? Kind of going crazy. We're doing crazy things.
Wait, hay liqueur?
Hay liqueur rinse. And that'll be like a potent rinse because it's really sticky. Okay, let's stir this. Maybe it's a
hay liqueur?
Make sure that there are 3 ingredients in a cocktail.
Damn, I guess Americans really will make anything into alcohol.
Make sure that is my orange bitters. It is. And now we will stir.
Okay.
Yeah, Meredith and I have a podcast that really uses.
Oh no, jump scare, podcast jump scare, white man jump scare.
We love the viewers we have. It's just that they're so lonely.
Go make friends.
Okay, there we go. Pour that in there. Now I'm gonna do something truly crazy.
Go to the bar, talk to people, and talk about alcohol.
Various recipes for cocktail cherries. These ones are.
It is very funny.
That I did with alcohol involved.
Brandy cherries.
For this drink.
It's very funny to see a lot of the equipment that he has is basically just like lab equipment.
Dry, but we'll see. It was good. Get that on there. I'm putting so much work into this garnish right now. Yeah, this drink might be disgusting.
Yes,
okay,
you are.
We need a name for this drink.
It's tube stock water. And the dude's just gonna be like, oh fuck. No alcohol can prep me for that. That's true.
Jersey Wildwood is
I needed to be spontaneous. I need to be blidsided by social contact and just be like, okay, hi, nice.
This I'll name after I taste. Here we go. Quite like.
I'm not involved in the video. We're watching. I abstained from alcohol a few years ago. That's totally fine. I'm not much of a drinker either. I drink really only in social settings and with friends.
With this yet, which is crazy to me.
Which doesn't happen very often.
In my opinion, to make this
Granted, I did have a beer last night, but that was because I went to a brewery and I was like, I can't just go in here and get pizza and not go to a brewery that's like specialty is making their own beer. It was good. I had something called a Thunderbird. It's very citrusy. Raves!
I am tasting a fair amount of
I'm Foofy. Hi, Foofy.
Orange is acting like the salt in a dish.
Star Overdrive. It sounds familiar, but I also don't know what it is. Welcome in, though, Foofy. How was your stream? Did you have a good time? What trouble did you get into? What shenanigans were you up to? What kind of game is Star Overdrive? We're currently hanging out, watching some the How to Drink. I forgot the name of the channel for a second. We're probably going to see, I think maybe in their side thing, maybe we'll be able to check their most recent thing. Which I actually think, no, that's 1 month ago. We'll check after the rest of the video. We're almost done. But how was your stream? Did you have a good time? Did you get into any trouble? What is Star Overdrive? I'm curious. I'm very curious.
It is tasting like the chocolate. It is tasting a little bit like anise. It is tasting a little
I just had a random thought too. Well, he's listing what these like taste like. Open world hoverboard game. Ooh, okay. Marin Go alcohol on occasion, but I'm also very lightweight, so I don't drink much. One cocktail, one beer, maybe.
Without tasting like a
Hi, Dezance.
in my opinion, really.
Are you shaking me or are you shaking Ordain? You better be shaking Ordain.
And also, I do stand corrected. The hanky panky is not a
Fair, I'll take your ethanol. Yeah, you can have the ethanol.
It's a gin
I like my
martini.
drinks to taste good.
Mara, try this and bring it to your microphone when you do.
Oh, the orange is nice. Oh yeah, little bitter.
How far back is her microphone if it's like...
Yeah, but not a Manhattan.
I think it's good and balanced, but I also have like, a mouth made of iron because I've been doing this show for a while. So
I'm doing pretty good this day. Today's a pretty decent day. I'm gonna go see Weapons later. By God, I will see it, so help me God.
These cherries, by the way, really surprised me. I didn't think that the alcohol-based ones would actually hold their structure very well. I thought the alcohol would suck the water out and leave them wrinkled and shriveled, but in fact...
Pog Weapons, nice. I just want to know, like, the trailer was really interesting, so I really kind of want to go see the movie.
Getting better over time, maybe. They started as alcohol.
This guy? Yes, exactly. It's Greg. His name's Greg.
A lot of people think
He's made some goofy faces, so sometimes I take them and I turn them into emotes.
I haven't had a drop.
I made those emotes myself.
What do we name
I made it myself.
And yet
I do not know why that came to mind.
Well, you know what? I'm just going to call it an Asbury Park. This is an Asbury Park cocktail.
Asbury Park.
Manhattan or another location city. It is like a vein of Manhattan. And I think that there's like a whole naming convention drinks for that. So
Okay.
Asbury Park cocktail. I like it. And I'm not all that far from that.
Someday I need to break out my my textbooks, what is essentially my mixology textbooks, go over them again, and then we have a show where we just like talk about cocktails that were left in the past. That'd be kind of fun. Because I do have one of the earliest mixology books, a reprint of one of the earliest mixology books. Oh, okay, I remember this. This is the Mai Tai. He does an entire episode. I was watching it in my own time. On the Mai Tai of the worst drink in America because it's fucking different everywhere you go and it's annoying. Past cocktails, just like old Coca-Cola recipe. Yeah, kind of. Like today, the Reanimator that we have today as a cocktail that I mentioned earlier is not the same as the original ingredients of the Reanimator 1. It's often sometimes just called the Reanimator 2. If you're at like a historical bar, they will often have it Reanimator number 2 because number 1 had a slightly different recipe that can't be made anymore because the ingredients don't exist anymore. I'm kind of curious about this one. We're gonna do the band one. Your palms are furry.
I've never done a Pride episode on the show for a whole lot of reasons. Meredith and I have talked about it, and we both agree that it would feel like performative allyship for me to do it. And
History time.
I'm not the guy who should be offering any commentary or insights on the
straight white man, straight white man working as internet bartender.
A guest for that feels like tokenship, and now we're right back to the performative allyship issue, and so we just never really did it. But I've been doing research for this really big episode that I'm working on.
No, I understand. I can see this. Go on, bud. Go on.
Not the drinks from Prohibition that modern cocktail bloggers like to write about, but the things that people actually were drinking during Prohibition. And this morning, I was thumbing through a PDF of the very sadly out of print Wet Drinks for Dry People, a cocktail guide that had fallen absolutely.
Plum cocktails, bees knees.
And I spotted a drink called the Pansy.
Wait. This page is dedicated to those who do not know the joy contained in a good homemade cocktail. Yes. A good cocktail is something nice to sip while you're doing one of your favorite activities.
This book, and I spotted a drink called the Pansy, which sounds very derogatory.
Hold on, no, go back. I want to read that original page.
Called the Pansy.
1/2 ounce gin, 1 teaspoon grenadine, 1 dash of bitters. Remember, almond extract is a good substitute for bitters. Cool It and Shake, dedicated to some of the boys I have met and about whom I have had doubts. This is a bad time to say that one of my favorite liquors is gin. Is this getting roasted? Weren't we talking about making a ringleader cocktail at one point, and two of the ingredients was either gin and grenadine or gin and Chambord? The raspberry liqueur? Gotta make the cocktails and watch go rounds?
Very derogatory.
What does that mean?
I promise you it's not. You just have to stay
I like
with
gin.
me until
I really do. I like
find out
gin-based
why.
drinks.
And that called back to my mind what I know about the pansy craze, which is entirely
yes.
about the
Next! How was your stream? Welcome in, dude.
Code cinema. 3 things that
I feel like, hold on, I feel like the quality is like weirdly all over the place. Welcome in, Raiders. How was your stream? Do you have a good time? How was Mech Warriors? What troubles did you get into? Did you die? Did you go boom? We're currently hanging out, looking at cocktails. We're going to learn about some 1930s cocktails. One of them, the Pansy cocktail. But we will see how this goes. I'm actually kind of excited because it's two of my favorite things. Learning about cocktails and mixology and history.
that are
Others went
decided
boom a lot.
within
Good,
my
I'm proud of you.
wheelhouse. So by total coincidence, it seems that this year I'm
It's
doing
Fluffy!
a Size-ish episode. But let's start with the drink.
Cocktails, huh?
because
Nice,
I've never
yeah.
had one of these before, and I'm very excited to see.
I like
what it's
doing like bartending
the
and stuff.
Pansy Cocktail.
It's
So,
one of those
the
weird things.
Pansy
It
has got
feels
some
shallow to
flavor
say, but it's
text
like
in
I
there
like
of
doing
our
cool
gathering.
things.
It's
I want to get
dedicated
back to
some of the
snowboarding
boys
after I
have
move.
met and
I
about
want to
whom
like
I've had some
be able to
doubts.
do scuba diving
Oh.
again, even if I can't do scuba
All right,
diving
it's a
because
really
it's
simple
kind of
cocktail.
expensive for
2
that shit.
ounces of
I'd like
gin.
to do snorkeling
I
at least
happened to
again.
grab Hendrix. Looking at the ingredients that go
Okay,
into this drink,
Hendrix
which are very
gin for
simple,
this? Sure.
I thought that Hendrix might bring a little bit more flavor to it. With
It's also
all-
probably the
and
closest
also
thing to
have,
a
like,
classic American gin that
less
you're going to
of
find,
those
as
really
opposed to grabbing a London Dry.
strong gin notes that you're accustomed to seeing in gin. I just thought it would
Has
be a better
big
gin.
super energy
I think
shaka
we'll
nipples.
Find out in a minute if it was 2 ounces of
What?
gin. And again, I think Hendrix is not a bad choice here. We're gonna
Hendrix
do
is usually a
one
pretty
dash
good
of
choice.
Angostura bitters, not much
If you want
at
London
all.
Dry,
There
then
you
just
go,
get
1
Beefeater.
dash of
It's cheap, it's
Angostura
affordable, it gets the job
In the
done,
book,
especially
it
if you're
does
making
say
cocktails.
bitters on that
If you
page.
want anything
Yeah, a lot of
else,
books like this, at the very
get
beginning,
Hendrix.
will have, like,
It'll be
breakdown of
easily
what
more
alcohol
available.
is in it.
If you have a really
Very
big selection of gin,
Angostura
you should get
bitters.
Sipsmith.
It also says, for some reason, that
Yay,
almond
Sipsmith.
extract is a usable stand-in for Angostura bitters, which we were discussing this in the Discord that my
It's actually
friends
really
don't have
interesting.
access to. It's very possible, actually, that almond extract at this
Does-
time was made very differently than the way it is now. Because
Oh, it's not. It wasn't as sweet as it is now.
Angostura bitters. And
Okay, that would make sense.
a teaspoon.
I was
of
gonna say, I always
grenadine.
imagine almond
Normally,
extract is like
I would
really
say
sweet.
to use, a bar spoon or a couple of bar spoons or whatever. But in truth be told,
Okay, I got a
teaspoon
a
and bar
a
spoon is not
little
considered
nervous there because I was
As
afraid
you
he was
can
gonna
see,
knock the
this is a
bottle
teaspoon.
over.
This is a bar spoon. Just made this grenadine, so it's really hot. There we go. A teaspoon of grenadine.
Ooh, the
That's the whole drink.
steam.
There's no sour component here at all, which makes me wonder if the grenadine at that
Okay.
time would have had a lot more acidity in it or something like that. I
It
don't know.
Depends on
But
the
we're just gonna
cherries,
shake it
right?
and
Grenadine's
serve it up.
made from cherries, right?
Truth be told,
I don't remember for sure.
I wonder if this drink should be stirred.
Is it?
It probably should.
I'm good. I'm gonna double check. Ember!
Yeah, definitely. This
There's
drink
my other
has
favorite
no
drink enjoyer.
Fruit juice of any kind. And
Hold on, I forget. I'm pretty sure grenadine's cherries, right? Right?
I'm gonna strain that into a chilled glass.
What is it? Pomegranates.
It does not make
wait, it's
mention of
pomegranates?
garnish, but I'm gonna use a little bit of poetic.
It is
license here.
sugar.
I
It's
think
it's sugar
this
and
would be
pomegranates, basically.
pleasant.
But why did I think it was
And there
cherries?
it is, a pansy. Very nice color, kind of a light reddish pink.
Actually, it's kind of pretty.
That is
Wait, he said light
surprisingly
pink. I see
good.
orange.
I really like that actually. That's a very. I swear to
I was
God.
gonna say,
might
it's just
actually
gin.
drink this.
It's
I
basically
like
just
this
gin
better than
grenadine.
martini. It's a lot more mild and sweet.
Of course, it's good.
I'm not really big on martinis. It could be just that, like I haven't had.
Considering
Hendrix in a long
grenade is
time,
French for
so
pomegranate, that makes
I'll leave
sense.
that.
Yes.
Smooth mouthfeel, rounded, soft, sweet notes.
I was gonna say, I see orange.
Orange blossom water in it, which
Maybe it has like the tinge of pink, like around the edges. I can kind of see that maybe.
In commercially available grenadine. Grenadine is so easy to make. You really should make your own. We'll put a recipe for my grenadine in the video.
At this rate, I'm basically gonna end up downloading this app at some point. I'm almost sure of it.
Patreon. And I think that it's doing a lot of lifting here. I mean, this drink has a lot of evolution. Balanced.
Not even its final form. Thanks, Frieza.
Enough earthiness from Angostura.
Oh god, I feel like I'm gonna sneeze. Oh shit.
You can do another dash, I think. But the floral nature of the grenadine that's in there is, first off, it's adding a sweetness, which is necessary. But it's also
sorry, I had like a double sneeze. All right, where am I? Hi, Secret. How are you doing?
I don't think you're gonna get a lot.
Welcome in. We're hanging out. We're learning about some cocktails.
There's even a debate.
That's how they get you, Miriam? That's how they get you? What do you mean? Which part? Which part are they gonna get me with?
Darcy O'Neil doesn't really. I think I don't want.
This is not even my final form. What else could you possibly turn into, Worthane? A cuter, even littler, smugger guy?
Pharmacist's take on it that would be appropriate to the time, but is different than
I still did the carnival. Sorry, Husky. Well, welcome to the carnival, Husky. Latin loser. Thank you for the follow. Welcome in.
Regardless,
why are you a loser? Is it because you're still speaking Latin?
Floral note here.
Everybody knows it's a dead language.
This is a delightful little drink. I really enjoy it.
I recommend relearning a different language.
Whenever I have a drink for the first time on the show, I think
unless you're an archaeologist. Paleontologist? No, no. Anthropologist. That's it. That's the word I was looking for. Cultural anthropologist.
But like, I don't know if I could.
The app, Marin. The app. Can I get a corn dog? No.
Without it becoming a totally different drink.
Actually, yes, you can get a corn dog.
So what was the pansy
But it bites
craze?
back.
So first off, right off the top here, initially pansy was pretty clearly
yes.
a derogatory term for an effeminate gay man. But the term was utterly reclaimed.
Ordain can get smugger? Yeah, no thanks. You'd be surprised to see how smug Ordain can get.
Malin, a very famous drag performer of the era, who dubbed himself the Queen of the
I can become even more chaotic. No!
But everything about cause it was a man.
Ooh.
The pansy craze can largely be centered around the late 20s.
It's always something to bitch about in America, isn't it?
And
it's always some marginalized group you gotta step on.
Talking about prohibition.
America can't exist without having a population to step on.
Specifically, not.
Can I get a chili dog? No.
Saloons operated in the daylight and were
the only hot dog type foods that we serve is a corn dog.
Working girls who
but it does bite back.
Saloons.
You kind of got to fight it.
Operate within the confines of the law and the.
A feminine gay band, me as fuck. Well, welcome in, Husky.
Which is how you end up with prohibition. But
released new update for Doom Eternal. You have the option to play base game Doom Eternal or a version that allows you to browse, add, manage mods for Doom Eternal. Damn.
Exclusive to men.
Random, but okay.
So the speakeasy, in a case of hilariously unintended consequences, were places where the strong lines that separated race and class and gender in America became blurred or disappeared altogether.
Hell yeah,
That's
dude.
For another episode about
everybody just wants to drink. Everybody wants to drink and a good time. Everything else that comes before that doesn't matter.
Here, but what matters is that it is against.
That's always the weirdest things when I hear about like
prohibition that the pansy craze takes off. Cities across America.
What is it? Essentially hate crimes. We'll go with we'll use the term hate crimes that happened at like clubs or bars or anything like that. I'm always just like,
RuPaul's Drag Race.
But why?
Really big draws.
You go into a place where everybody is there with the full intent to have fun, and you decide this is the place where you're gonna inflict the most amount of damage you can possibly get away with.
I can already hear the comments
with the target, with the idea of targeting a certain demographic, or even just smaller, like bar fights. Bar fights that start out over like cultural or sex or gender differences at a bar are insane to me. Motherfucker, sit down and get a drink.
America was
sit down, shut up, and get a drink. Have a fight in the parking lot if you're both still up to it after this. Don't start one here.
I think that the drag cabaret world of Berlin was probably being.
Ooh, oh my God, the classic drag kings.
We're gonna come to it. You're gonna come to
yes, specifically
why
kings.
You don't really associate that with
also cool. Thank you for 3 streams straight. Holy shit, dude.
Coming up next.
Just too angry, apparently.
It's worth pointing out that in I think 1927, Metropolis comes out.
I was gonna say it's Metropolis.
Futuristic New York.
I've seen parts of Metropolis. I haven't got to see the whole of Metropolis. The people I was watching Metropolis with got bored partway into it.
Talking out of turn here, but from what I have read so
far, I did not get to see the entire movie before. Maybe someday I'll finish it.
As much in those
the most painted as quickly as possible. Yep.
Of the Weimar was so famous for, as much America as anything else. back to America.
It's also, it is very funny to think about the fact that Germany probably had one of the largest queer scenes on the planet.
Somehow barred from entering or being in the
Well,
audience.
okay, not on the planet, in the
I did have an
Western
instinct
world,
initially to
had the
compare
largest
this
queer
to
scenes in the
Cotton
Western
Club
world.
Ireland,
Like,
where
up
black
until
musicians were performing for white audiences, but the Cotton Club was strictly segregated.
1934?
Black people were not permitted into the audience,
Something like
only on
that?
stage, with very few
was my entertainment during lockdown? Good. His content is good. He's really smart. He's clever.
We've set
And he's
sort of the
funny. I like
foundation
him.
for the Pansy craze here. This drink is nearly empty.
Some-
and I
sometimes
kinda
he
think
streams
I
on
should
Twitch.
Make a second drink in this episode. And then I got more to say about this because we're only about halfway through my Pansy craze. We haven't even gotten into the whole pre-code cinema thing yet. That is yet to come. I wasn't really sure where to go
Pre-code
with
cinema.
a
Before the
follow-up to this
cinema
drink.
code
But
came out
as I
and they
was preparing
started
my
banning
bottles for
things
the show,
in
I caught
films.
sight of this. This is a small bottle of
Okay,
what's
that's the
left
code
of
he's
some
talking about. That was
rum that I made, actually. It's an
the
Eldorado
code
rum
for
that has been infused with
cinema and
figs. I used,
screenplays was
Spinzall to make this several episodes
30s?
ago. Spinzall's a
37?
really cool device. It is a bartender centrifuge.
Maybe it was
allows you to
50s. Shit, I can't
clarify
remember for sure.
infusions or fruit juices.
Have you ever tried port wine? I don't
Totally
think so.
And I really
No
loved
parking,
the
only
fig
fights?
rum
Wait,
that
what?
Came out. Something about fig.
Oh yeah, you're talking about my
something
parking
about
lot? Yes,
this
that's exactly why that
feels
sign's there.
like it plays in the same vein as
That's also why I filled it with classic cars,
So, I
because
thought my
it kind of
fig
gives that nice
rum-
like
I know, that's
70s
gonna be tough to
vibe
replicate for a
of
lot of
like,
people. Let's start
you
with
gotta
2
protect your
ounces
girl
of
at the
fig
diner.
rum. You can
Man's
do it,
being
though. You can do it.
disrespectful.
I
It's
mean,
time to
it's
teach him a
definitely
lesson.
gonna be clearer with a Spinzall, but you can definitely do it.
Plus, like,
by-
being completely empty parking lot
honestly,
isn't nearly as fun for a brawl. You kind of gotta like hit people against bumpers and stuff.
With a blender and a Spinzall. If you want to do a blender,
Did knobs for
raw
default in movies?
filtration,
Yep.
You won't get it crystal clear, but you get the same taste. Let's do a bar spoon.
The same more
maraschino
maraschino.
liqueur. Let's do a teaspoon.
What is? I don't know that bottle off the top of my head. Anytime I see a blacked out bottle, it's usually.
This is a. I used to use this on the show a lot. I
Oh.
think half because I love the label, but I don't know. I was looking for a little something extra for this. This is a cherry bitter liqueur from France. Quinine means it has
Ooh.
quinine in it, basically. what it
Okay.
Traditionally did. It's not very.
I got some
sweet,
stolen
but
Teslas
it's
we can
not
put
not
there.
sweet
That works
either.
too.
It has a lot of earthy and herbal notes in it.
Are
Also,
you
I don't
ready
know,
to
the
rumble?
devilish little imp on it, and the whole fact that it's France.
Like
and
Street
we're
Fighter,
talking
yes.
about
Specifically
Pansy
with the
craze, and they
soundtrack.
think of
Let me take you for
Monaco.
a ride.
I'm so
Let me
sorry.
take you for
Dear people
a
of France,
ride.
I am sorry for my parody accent. Le Monaco. My Pepe Le Pew.
I like that the fucking,
which was
the
a,
caption was just
a
like, lemon.
lesbian-owned nightclub and
Lemon.
cabaret, famous in Paris at the same time during the 20s.
Hold on, go back.
Lesbian-owned.
Look at this lady with the fucking monocle. Nice. Nice. Absolutely killing it. Massive cigarette in mouth, monocle, full fitted suit. Fantastic. It's even better that the last words used were lesbian owned.
Nightclub and cabaret, famous in Paris at the same time during the 20s and 30s. So let's do a teaspoon of it. What the heck? Since we're playing with teaspoons already.
Hell yeah,
we're in
dude.
that world. I
Bring
don't
back
normally
monocles
like
and
to
long
work
cigarette
spoons and
holders.
measures, but fine.
I don't think we need cigarette holders. I don't think we need to bring back cigarettes and smoking up a cloud in a club or bar. Dr. Girlfriend energy. I can see it. I can see it. He's thinking. He's thinking. The thought process is thought
You
processing.
know what I think too?
Angostura bitters?
I had thought we'll have to throw some bitters in there as well, but why not? Angostura cocoa bitters.
Cocoa bitters.
Forgot to add them.
Ooh.
2 dashes of Ango cocoa. Now we're talking.
Okay. Me to my favorite drink, the daiquiri. 2 parts unaged rum, 1 part demerara sauce. Syrup, 1 part lime. Oh.
Take your chilled glass. strain
That's an
it in.
interesting daiquiri.
I did initially
Is
have
that a
thought I
classic
might do
daiquiri,
this
or is
with a,
because
absinthe rinse, but I
don't know some of those ingredients off the top of my head.
Against it.
Me, I'm in the box. No!
Normally you want the wash line higher, but there was something kind of cool about that. I don't know what it is.
It's fine. I'm sure it's fine.
To borrow a sailing term, that very high freeboard on this drink. I don't know. There's something about that. It feels a little decadent.
Not the freeboard.
I'm going to use
Hey,
one of my
she's sitting a
own
little low
cocktail
in the water,
cherries that are
Captain.
going to be featured in an upcoming episode once cherries come back into season. I'm very happy with the way these are coming out.
I think those
although
the
bottle
brandy
that
cherries
contains
again.
them really really hard to get at.
Oh, oh.
A maraschino cherry will do you fine, though.
A maraschino will do fine after having to like cut to find a cherry.
I really like. And there we
Just
have
simple
it,
syrup
a,
with brown.
pansy number
Oh.
2. I don't know what else to call it.
Oh, that actually sounds awesome. Okay, that's a very interesting daiquiri.
I love that. It tastes so figgy. There are notes of cherry. There's a
Figgy?
loud earth
Did he put something with fig in it?
of fig in there, and now some raisin as well. The whole thing
I don't think.
is very approachable.
Did you
Very
put anything that
approachable.
had fig in
Very-
it?
I'm gonna say dry. It certainly is sweet tinned, but it doesn't come across as an overly sweet cocktail. And when
Oh,
you
my
combine
lips are
that with
chapped again. They're peeling.
earthy kind of notes that it has, it actually
Time to
comes
break
across
out the
pretty dry.
de-peeler.
It's not like bracing the way a gin martini is.
Ships the box
But
to
maybe
Singapore.
it's
Have
not-
fun in
it is
Singapore,
sort of a pleasant thing to have
Ordain.
in a weird way, flavor-wise, not build-wise. I get noses.
I still
of
don't fully
chocolate flavors.
understand.
I get
I'm
those
a terrible
right
bartender.
from
I don't
the
understand the
box
difference
there.
between dry and not dry.
It's a very enjoyable drink.
In the case
It's
of a
very
beverage.
aftertaste.
Like I don't know why London Dry Gin is called
That's
dry.
the best way to put it. Could
Put a fig in the
not be
middle?
happier with this little guy. Let's get back to the pansy craze in the Roaring 20s.
Oh god, that was in the
pre-code
one of my
cinema.
supermarkets has like a
Period in American
luxury,
cinema
hold on.
90%.
A like luxury like wine section with like things that you can have as snacks to accompany the wine. And one of them is chocolate dipped figs, but they're like there's like a dozen pieces in the box and it's $9 fucking. It's insane. It's so fucking pricey, but I bought it once and it was really fucking good. It's really good. Chocolate dipped figs are awesome.
With personally that we call the pre-code years. I think that once you have
Dryness, the sugariness. Ah.
you will, I don't know, it's like having the veil pulled off of your eyes. Like, oh, they're what I imagine the past to have been like is actually not what the past is like.
Oh yeah, correct. Correct.
Because after 1934, the past is like this invention, this lie. Pre-code,
Also, yes.
generally speaking, the summer of 1934 and earlier,
Very
Hollywood
much
could kinda
yes.
get away with anything. And they did. In those films of the
That,
pre-code
that
years,
pre-
you're gonna find a
Code
lot of
Time was
gay
when
and
they
lesbian
created the
innuendo
falseness of
and
the American
art.
dream effectively.
madam.
Oh, I thought you were pansy.
Well, I'm the wildest pansy you ever picked.
Yes, often played frankly for laughs.
Oh man, we need to watch some more
Fashion.
classic shows and movies. We've all seen this video. If you've been on the internet long enough, you've seen this video.
Boys will be boys.
But there they are.
Boys will be boys.
Like Call Her Savage.
Where are we going?
Well, you said you wanted to go slumming, so I picked a place to eat in the village. Only wild poets and anarchists eat there. It's pretty tough.
Wild poet.
Up and down the hall. Working a team for me to snug.
In Wonder Bar.
That's cute.
In The Public Enemy, actually, which Meredith and
Cause
I
say,
just covered
I mean,
on
this
our
is
podcast,
pre-code, so
Midnight
it's
Local,
this is basically what they
podcast where we
wanted to
talk
make.
about
They made what they
movies
wanted
and
to
then
make.
Wherever the conversation goes from there. There is.
Does this just count as
scene in
exploitation?
which James Cagney is being fitted for a suit, and the tailor,
think so.
who is a pansy, a stereotypical Hollywood pansy caricature.
Listen, if
makes
the
pass
tailor is a pansy, so shall it be. I trust him wholeheartedly.
Here's where you need the room. Such a muscle.
Make it snappy. You're gonna find out what it's for. Yeah, come on, let's get out.
You gotta find out what it's
Cagney
worth.
Just like kind of informs him the way that a street tough would. I'm not interested, buddy. Move along. And so many.
True.
others. There's
Honestly,
so
honestly,
much.
the funny thing about that scene is, yes, he like denied the advances. Good. Like that's totally fine. In comparison to modern day, how a straight man often reacts to a flamboyant man's advances, that was classy. That was practically fucking. Oh, a Negroni? What about a Negroni? To a drink that I absolutely abhor, the Negroni, equal parts gin, sweet vermouth, and Campari. I literally had a Negroni like 2 weeks ago. It was pretty good. It's very strong. It's very strong. He can't even send a rocket to the moon. He's the one who always wants to send things to Mars or Dane. That's pretty much it. That's the bit. That's the bit. I was gonna say, but that street, the Italian street toughs thing there, that was downright classy by comparison.
Thomas, look.
That heavenly blue against that mauve curtain. Doesn't it excite you?
Morning, Eva. Oh, how can you say such a thing?
Gorgeous.
I've always looked upon myself as a very passionate woman.
I'm sorry, but I just noticed the mustache on this woman that's like drawn onto her. It looks like, I don't know, like broom bristles almost. Stereotypical straight man reacts to the advance of another man in modern media, to put it bluntly, makes them look like a pansy. I agree. Because they're always like the reactions in like modern media, or even as I've seen actual men, they're always much more defensive, much more physical. Like that guy was feeling up his arm trying to put that suit on, and like obviously made an advance in a sort of way. And the guy was just like, basically in his own way, was just like, we're just here for the suit. Don't go doing that again, blah, blah, blah. But like, he didn't jump back. He didn't yell. He didn't raise his voice. It was borderline, again, like I said, comparatively classy. Was it classy? No, not by definition. But compared to modern reactions that you get in movies or even in real life, it's It's my internet, so I'm a dip. Have a good night, Bazant. Thank you for hanging out for a while. They catch bricks!
Well, I don't know anything about that, dear Duchess, but you don't get it into your dancing.
Top hats.
Maybe less of an ideal gay representation in these movies, but it's there.
Shake him, chat. Shake or down. Shake him harder.
These performances as being derogatory and hurtful stereotypes. But on the other hand, these performances are coming out of underground speakeasies with the tradition of vaudeville, where the people on the stage and the people in the audience were all there, laughing together as a singular peer group of fun-loving, libertine criminals looking to enjoy a good drink.
Exactly. Exactly.
I'm not so sure performances or their inclusion in pre-code films.
Did you mention James Whale? Ooh, maybe I forgot some of the names of the movies that flash past.
The disappearance of them does.
But it does mean quite definitely that the vulgar
Head of the Production Code Administration.
is out.
In 1934, the code goes
Cheap
into
Torpy?
LGBT.
Wait.
Mean quite definitely that the vulgar, the cheap, and the tawdry.
I want a side-by-side picture of like this man and then the movies we just saw of like whoever was like the focus in each scene. This dude looks so boring, I would fall asleep to any speech he gave. Also, hold on. I want him to say that last one part again.
Definitely that the vulgar, the cheap, and the tawdry is out.
He does say, he says torpy or torpery. What is that? Tawdry? He does not say tawdry. That's torpery.
Except in secret, in coded ways, dubbed the Celluloid Closet, which is a good documentary you should watch. You know,
Okay, we got 5 minutes until the ad break.
Show new releases back then.
As you can see me smile. Yeah, you're very smug in it. So you are smiling in the Evo, which is even funnier.
Run it again. Except that after 1934,
He put a cup of coffee to sleep? Oh, for fucking sure.
From the print.
From getting milk, the power in my house went out and still is. Oh, I'm sorry, Banjo.
This is what pre-code cinema.
Welcome back. Thank you for coming
is
back.
all about. We talk about this on Midnight Local all the time. The tailor in The Public Enemy, who's taking James Cagney's measurements, doesn't exist in the film after 1934 until it was restored.
What?
Movies were the media of the day.
So they removed it. They literally cut that scene out.
I mean, if you think about it, sure, you had radio, but the movies.
It is crazy to consider the movies that we've lost due to like postcode decades.
I mean, you had, for
and then of course like the extensive archives of major fucking productions like MGM and Universal and stuff that have spanned like the entire existence of Hollywood. Post vaudeville acts basically.
That didn't really exist, where the cowboys always wore white hats and they never dated each other, and cops were never crooked, and the bad guys, or just women who happened to have sex, always got punished by the third act. And I'm sure that the adults who were aware and saw that transformation that just came down like a hammer in 1934, they knew it was an illusion.
Had to have known, right?
Like it happened on the turn of a dime.
my family members aren't even that old anymore. My grandma that was born in like
their kids didn't know it was a lie.
my
Their
grandma
kids
was born in
only grew up
32, already passed away.
where John Wayne was a hero. The bad guys got punished, and frankly,
She was the one that had Alzheimer's, so I can't even be like I can't even just be like, oh, if she was still alive, I could just ask her. No.
I actually just did an episode a couple weeks ago about
Dude, Tor, say
the
be
power
a
and danger of
fella's
nostalgia.
Cinderella,
By
but
the way, nobody
shucks.
watched it, so go check it
But
out.
shucks.
And the way that advertisers can use it against you. In it, I kind of point out that
That's fine. You don't need to give me a hug.
or suggestions
I'm
that we
doing
should return to
A-okay.
some bygone era always seem to center on a era, a time, or a place that never actually existed at all. It's always a dream.
Very
It's
much
always
correct.
A fantasy that was cooked up by some
Hold on.
dream factory, or I guess in this case maybe the censorship board, because there never was a time or place in America that LGBTQ plus people didn't exist. Only one in which they couldn't be seen.
Precisely. I like that he also brought up oh, that's the Midnight Local episode. Okay. There was another one. No, let's do this. Cuddles in the boat? The boat! Mayhaps? We're about to go into hour 3. Tequila drinks. Let's do 1920s. We'll do 1920s recipe.
Today I want to talk about
I just noticed the animation on your arms. That's awesome. Thank you, Banjo. It was very convoluted. There was actually supposed to also be stuff coming off of my arms, but apparently they weren't usable. So there's a lot of details that like got lost. But I think we're gonna have a slight break, guys. I'm gonna call the ad break early in just a second. I'm going to give you though the fishing game. Wait, oh, your fishing game. There you are. Of course, it always has the fucking pop-up. But I will be back in a couple minutes. I'm gonna run the ad break early because I need to run to the bathroom. And then we can do the whole video instead of only getting a couple minutes in and then having to skip. So we'll be back in a minute. I'll also make sure I give you all the music, I promise. Hi, Kono. Is it not working? Hold on a second. Oh, motherfucker. Why? Why are you like this? I'm reopening it. I'm reopening it. All right, there we go. All right, it's working. I'm sorry. All right. What's going on? What'd I miss? Who died? Everybody's still alive? Nobody's bleeding out in the corner? All right. The music is very loud. I'm going to turn that down. All right. All right. I died again. Again. Not again, queens. All right. All right. No. No story time. All right. Let's do this.
Completely forgotten cocktail. And it's
Hold on.
crazy because
There
this
we go.
cocktail
Captions.
was
Captions are important. I need
probably
them.
the most popular cocktail during the Prohibition era. This cocktail was
Ooh.
so popular that there were court cases about it. It was on every menu. There were newspaper articles about it, and it has completely fallen.
Just say it could be
off the radar.
Manhattans.
Nobody talks about this
No,
drink.
people know
Nobody
Manhattans.
makes it. I think it's because we actually forgot how. Today, I am going to make it as close to it would have been made in 1914.
Oh,
when
we're
it
getting out
first
the
appeared in
still?
print. The
Oh,
Bacardi
shit.
cocktail. We're gonna see if we can't revive and bring back from
Bacardi
the dead
cocktail?
this vital lost cocktail. This is the shit that I am so excited to be able to do on this show, and it doesn't always happen.
The
There are
Harvey
two
Wallbanger?
things that are
No.
kind of coming
No,
together right
absolutely
now
not.
to make this cocktail possible. The first is that about 3 years ago,
It was
Darcy
Bacardi.
O'Neill at Art of Drink, whom you should follow, you should totally follow, you should check out his Patreon, his blog, and his YouTube. He is the best. You should buy his book,
blog?
actually, Fix the Pumps, which I'm
In the
putting
year
your
of our
faces
Lord,
right now.
2025,
He
a
publishes findings about
blog?
an ingredient we call grenadine, which everybody assumes is made from pomegranates. I talked about this in a recent episode.
Is it not?
And the reason everybody assumes
When I
that
just looked
is
it up, it was
because
said
the word
pomegranates.
grenadine and pomegranate are synonyms. Therefore, grenadine must be.
Or am I about to find out that it's cherries? Because I
However,
thought it was cherries.
Darcy found several pharmacists' formulations for how to make grenadine from the early part of the 1900s, and shocker, none of them include pomegranate. And in fact, none of them make any reference to even.
Ooh, okay, this is interesting.
Pomegranate. He figured out that the etymology of grenadine has really nothing to do with pomegranates in this case. It has something to do with a flower called a clove pink, and he's got a really good write-up on that and a recipe that you can follow.
What?
If you want to make that, I'm going to send you to his content for now. Let me tell you
Just
something.
red and
This
sugar,
stuff
let's
is
go.
awesome. It
So
doesn't
the red
taste
is
like
clove?
anything like modern grenadine. Now, you might say, I want my modern grenadine. This is just a tiny amount of seltzer. I'm just going to put a splash in here. Unmeasured, that's okay. You might say, I
Okay.
want my modern grenadine. I like the way grenadine tastes, and that's fine. But when
That
you're
is
talking
fine,
about
but we're making a
pre-prohibition
different cocktail
cocktails,
today.
When you're talking about things that were made prior to the 1950s, it seems to be that this is the grenadine that those drinks were calling for.
It's interesting that they
Clove,
mentioned the
orange, vanilla. It's closer to
the
Angostura
pharmacist
bitters. It's not
prescription,
like
which makes me
Angostura
think
bitters,
this is
but
the
this
case
has
of
more in
like
common with
when
Angostura
soda fountains were
than it
still a thing
does
and they were adding
with
grenadine to
pomegranate.
sodas.
So when you're talking about Prohibition cocktails, they were probably using this. Prohibition, pre-Prohibition, classic cocktails that call for grenadine
Okay.
are probably using this. And in fact, Darcy says that he
Oh my God,
found
y'all are
those,
still fishing.
Pharmacist formulations.
Always
from
got to
the
jingle the keys in front of y'all to
That's
make
when
y'all
you
remember that the
start
fishing game
to sell
exists.
cocktails for the most part. I don't think that it goes up.
Hi, Dominus. How are you doing?
And why pharmacists? Well, pharmacists, that's a soda counter. That is where a lot of your syrups and ingredients and patent medicines, bitters, things. came
Soda
from,
used to be
okay?
prescription.
And to that point, when I look at old
Oh, you have a
cocktail
tummy
guides, I
ache?
might
Would you
find
like some? Would you
recipes
like some
for
seltzer and lemon
raspberry
juice?
syrup, gum syrup, simple syrup, pineapple syrup. I don't find too many recipes for grenadine. In fact, I
I
can't
never forget the
recall
theme. That's
ever
true. That's why
reading
last
it, to
time
be
you were
honest with
12,000 points ahead.
So that's the first thing that makes this episode really exciting. The second thing is that I've been working on a project.
Oh, dang,
an
why are you
expansive
headbanging? Why
research
are you
project
headbanging?
To answer the question, what was
Yeah,
the most
ginger ale's
popular
fucking
cocktail,
great.
or
I
what
love
were
ginger
the most
ale.
popular cocktails during Prohibition? Because if you go and punch
During,
into
that was a
Google,
weird way to say
best
that.
Prohibition cocktails, most popular Prohibition cocktails, you're going to find a list that
The
includes
things be
like
forgetting me
sneeze,
instead of all
you're
these
gonna see
lost
that it's gonna
feamshes.
have a last word.
You'll be okay, I
These
promise.
Are the most popular cocktails
You still use it the most out of everyone. I don't know when at which point it broke. Probably the same time that the GOS broke.
But were they the drinks
That the
people were
Gardic phone
making
on
at
stream
home
broke,
or
I'm
ordering
guessing?
out at speakeasies or at, daylight bars?
That's what I can only assume.
overseas
I can only
than
assume
at
it's something like that.
France and in Germany. I
Hi,
don't think
Ginger.
so, actually.
Speaking of ginger
And the
ale,
way that I'm trying to quantify this is
Ginger,
that I
come
started
over here. I'm gonna
collecting
drink.
an
I'm gonna drink the
enormous
entire
pile
pail.
of digitized cocktail guides
I want the
that
entire
start
pail.
at the beginning of Prohibition
I could get
and end
ginger
at
ale at the
right
movie
there,
theater.
1919 to 1933.
And it can add special
I
flavors to
started
it.
processing them in a
I
spreadsheet
want
that would
strawberry
plot
ginger
how many times each drink appears in print across all of those cocktails. Is that a perfect system? No, but I can't get the receipts from every speakeasy that ever existed, or even one.
I was gonna say most places
so
still don't
my
exist.
best guess is
Most
that the stuff
speakeasies that
people were
currently
writing the most
exist are
about,
not the remains
the
of
stuff
old
that people
speakeasies,
wanted
but
to
new
find
ones
in
that people
cocktail
made
guides the
essentially for the
most,
shits and giggles of
probably
it.
the drinks that they were drinking and ordering the most.
The
And
things I
reason
would
that
give
that
to go
list
to a
matters is
classic
because I now have an
speakeasy.
index of
I literally have a
what
video
this drink
saved on my
appears in
TikTok that's
every book that you can
the
lay hands
guide on how to
from
get to a
Prohibition.
specific
And I'm
speakeasy
able to
in
put all of those recipes together now because it's not always the same recipe. The
in New
recipe
York
changed a bunch
somewhere.
over the years. And what really excites me is that I have yet to do this. I have not made this classic style Bacardi cocktail. Now, Bacardi is Puerto Rican rum, but at the time, actually, the word Bacardi was a brand, but it was also utterly synonymous with
Okay, so it
Cuban
is-
rum. In fact, when you look at like old cocktail
Somewhat
guides,
similar.
they call
Okay,
for
okay.
Things like rum.
Sorry,
or
I
Santa
bumped the
Cruz
mouse.
rum,
I bumped
or
the
Bacardi
mouse.
rum. And certainly, on the one hand, the Bacardi cocktail should be made.
Yeah,
with
it is.
Bacardi. In
It is
fact,
a
there
Bacardi.
was a court case in 1936, Bacardi Corp of America versus Domingo Ortega in the New York Supreme Court that determined you can't call this drink a Bacardi cocktail unless you use Bacardi. And we're not going to be using Bacardi.
Fuck
because
you.
Bacardi, as I said, used to be synonymous with Cuban rum. As of the Communist Revolution in Cuba in the 60s, Bacardi is no longer Cuban rum. They left their stills and distillery and equipment behind, and they went to Puerto Rico and started making their rum there.
Yeah.
It's a different rum, and rum aficionados and historians are more poised to
Oh,
talk on
it's
this
just-
subject than I am, but I take it from the people who seem to know that modern Bacardi bears little, if
Unlocked
any,
expressions of joy. He's evolving. Oh
but you know what
no.
rum does?
Oh
Floridiana, which is a wonderful rum, and that's what I'm going to be using today. This
Floridiana?
appears to be,
No.
for my money, about as close to a Cuban rum as
Hey guys,
I
do you
can
want to
get
buy
in
this
the United
product
States,
made
but
in
Cuban
Florida?
rum
No.
is not legal to put on store shelves.
No,
And I
it's
always have
not.
to say this because people don't know. There is a brand of rum in America called Havana Club. It is not Havana Club that is made in Cuba. Havana Club.
Yeah,
would
this
be the
is
rum
Puerto
I would
Rican
use.
rum.
If you have access to Havana Club from Cuba, use that. When I say it's not the same rum, I mean it's not the same company. There are lawsuits about it. It is not the same rum. Okay.
It's literally probably,
The only
it feels like it's some
reason I think it
sleazebag
can get
trying
away
to
with being
sneak in on a
sold,
name and just
is
hoping people are dumb
because
enough
the
to
other
buy
rum
theirs instead of
is
the real
trapped on the
thing.
other side of an embargo. So
Fucking asshole
jurisdiction.
businessmen do that shit all the
First
time.
recipe that I find for a Bacardi cocktail.
Alino,
is in a
arson,
book called
chaos, and
Drinks that was
sass? Well, you
printed in
misspelled sass.
1914, which calls for half a pony of grenadine,
Oh.
2/3 of a jigger of Bacardi, and the juice.
Oh, not a pony and a
Those
jigger.
measurements are a
Oh,
bit out of
no.
date, I guess a half a pony and 2/3 of a jigger. Basically, though, if you have a two-sided jigger, the large side is the jigger and the small side is the pony. In this case, it's 1
Oh.
and 2. It used to be 1.5 and 0.75 ounces. Regardless, if you keep that in mind, your proportions will be the same, and that's the only thing that matters. What
Like
think
I
is
give a
really
fuck
interesting
a
is
butte
that I've
grammar.
read through
Listen,
these, I haven't made them.
listen, Ordain.
Half a
It's
pony of
important.
grenadine
I don't care if you're
is,
just a
I think,
mechanic.
more grenadine
You
than
still need to be able to
any of the
conduct
other
yourself in a
recipes we're gonna look
classy
at
and
calls for. So that
respectable way
actually
when
makes a lot of sense to
necessary.
me. So I want half of a pony, which in this case is in fact half of an ounce, which is great because I
Also,
want to
I've never
balance
seen
that
any
way.
other
And
person
now I'm gonna
use
do another
a
half
jigger
pony
like the
of
one
this
that he
grenadine.
has.
Still hot because I just
The ones
made it.
that I've
And
always seen, the ones that I've
2/3
always
jigger
used
of
are
Bacardi.
more
I mean,
pointed.
Flor de Cana.
They're more like
This is
cones
the episode
instead
I
of
get sued over.
bells.
And so in this case,
I'm
it's
just gonna
an
say that his was like bell shaped.
Let's shake this up.
Mine are the ones that I've always used are more like
Baby
cones.
everywhere.
I'm Dustmare,
All right,
not
let's
Inrish.
strain that
What is
into our
Inrish?
glass. Gorgeous, beautiful color. Bacardi. I
I'm
mean,
just being
Flor de
smarmy
Cana.
now, but it's fun.
That is way different from a daiquiri, which is cool.
Okay.
because It's basically the recipe for a daiquiri: lime, sweet, and rum. But this has.
I have a bell-shaped one like that. It's like the FGO Holy Grail. Amazing. Willow, how are you
The
doing?
orange is probably getting lost.
What trouble are you
in
getting
the
into?
lime, which is more
What
of a
shenanigans are you
power
up to on this day?
But absolutely, the clove is
On this
coming through.
Thursday.
It has an additional bit of roundness to it from. I
What,
think,
Ordain?
the
What are you
vanilla.
squinting
It's a
at?
different drink. This is awesome. This is a different drink fundamentally.
Can I
was
help you?
thinking like maybe I should compare it to a batch one made with regular grenadine, but I got so many drinks I want to look at here. All right, we'll do this one. and
Hanging with my
compare it
monkey,
to
working on my
regular
book. Tell
grenadine.
him he's
Not
a good
regular, but
boy.
Post-prohibition grenadine.
I need you to tell him I called him a good boy.
That's really hard to roll off.
And give him
of my
scritches.
mouth. All right, we're gonna.
He's
need
a very
lime,
handsome little man.
Half a pony of my grenadine.
He's a very handsome little
This is
monkey.
Pomegranate grenadine. I need the same, just to make
Yay!
this exactly the same drink. By the way, half a pony in this case is half an ounce lime juice, 1.5 ounces of our rum.
Okay,
It's
English
called
and English
style
drinking
rum.
too
Lots
much
of people would
Irish
say this
whiskey.
is Spanish style
Oh.
rum. Rums like
Maybe.
it or not, generally speaking,
Maybe.
fall into styles
That's
that
actually kind of
align
funny. I
with
like
the
that.
colonial powers under which they developed. So you can kind of group Spanish-style rums together. Although Flirtacania comes from Nicaragua. Nice.
Wait, what? Wait. The one that sounds like it says Florida is from Nicaragua. Wait, that's hilarious. I like that.
All right.
Never
is a
mind. I
Bacardi
take back what I
cocktail
said about
made
it.
With post-prohibition.
I'm changing history. I'm
Color,
removing whiskey from the world. Hey, listen, I'll still
Cheers.
live. You're the one who has the bottle of whiskey as your only alcohol right
I mean,
now.
This one really tastes like pomegranate, which I also like. It presents as a
I'm
much
fine without
sweeter
whiskeys.
cocktail, which is nuts.
I'll live.
Because both syrups have the same amount of sugar in them.
The only
And
thing that's
frankly,
lower on my
kind of
list
the
of liquors to make
pomegranate and the
cocktails
rum
out of than
kinda
whiskey is
conspire
fucking
to make a
tequila.
fumier drink in a way.
Tequila can burn
Maybe
for
I'm
all I
biased, 'cause
care.
This is cool. Yeah, I don't know. It brings to the fore less pleasant qualities of the rum.
I don't
They
drink,
are
never have,
wildly
or will.
different.
That's
They
totally
are
understandable,
totally
Gundam.
different,
In
but they're
fact,
still both pretty
all the more power
well-balanced
to you.
cocktails, and they both stand
Don't
in
give
their
in to
own
the
right.
vices
It's that
of
for
things that are
historical
effectively
purposes, maybe I'm
poison.
biased, but also I think the flavor is better on this pre-prohibition
You can't stop me
style.
now. I'm removing
The only
all
other
alcohol
question
from
is, can you do
history.
even better with the rum. I don't know.
Oh.
The next time this drink appears in print,
That's
that
fine.
I
We would
can
have never known it
find
existed
is in
anyway.
Recipes for Mixed Drinks by Hugo Enslin.
I used to
a
drink,
very
hate
influential
doing it.
bartender. This is a
I only like
1970 book
having like
called for
one drink on
Bacardi
occasion.
Rum, juice of half a lime, 2 dashes. of
Like
rum
in a
syrup.
social event
Not
with friends or something,
granted.
I will have like one
What
cocktail
I think
or like
is
one beer.
interesting
Kind of depends
there
on the
is
place
that
that you go
drink
to.
is a daiquiri.
Depends on what the
That's
place is
daiquiri.
like.
You find a
Special.
lot of different
What's their
recipes for the
special?
Bacardi cocktail in the history of this drink. Some of them are.
I had one time I
The thing that's
had way
interesting
too much
is that
tequila.
Those books often also contain
And to
the
this
recipe
at
for
this point,
a daiquiri.
only in
It's
recent
just
months
like
did I
a
figure this
very
out
subtle
from the
change
night
in
that I
wording.
thought I was
Additionally,
just
a
like
lot of these books
hungover for the first
contain
time the
many
next day,
Bacardi cocktails.
or was just
The
way too
Bacardi
drunk to
cocktail,
help
Bacardi
myself.
Blossom, Bacardi Cooler. I
But
haven't
looking
done the
back,
Bacardi
I'm pretty sure I was
Blossom yet. That
roofied
shows
that
up in a lot
night.
of books. I should
I'm like
check
almost
that out as
certain
well.
of it.
So I'm not gonna make that drink
Because
because
like
that
I
is a
couldn't
daiquiri,
walk.
and I'm
I
human
went
being,
from
and I
like
actually have to do
having to
these
take
things,
bathroom
and I
breaks
will-
like 3 times
I
in a
will
row
die.
to I couldn't
Drink every
like
single one. It's exciting stuff. to me.
leave. Like at one point I felt like I was gonna
Please
throw up,
make
so I was
this
like, I'm just gonna
drink
go wait
both
until I
ways.
throw
For
up
the
and like
moment, I am
sit
sending
on the
you
floor
to
and like lean on the
Darcy
toilet
O'Neill,
bowl.
Art of Drink.
At a bar.
I'll send
I was
the
at a
links out
bar.
here. Go get the recipe.
And I
for
like
the
I was waiting to throw up, and apparently I like fell asleep on
you
it, and I
good
only
neighbor?
remember waking up hearing my friends
He
come in
deserves the
looking for me,
traffic. I will in
and
a
then like
future
having to
episode
kick in
be
the
making
stall
this
door behind me
myself, and
because I
we will
couldn't.
have a
I
whole thing
literally
about that,
heard
'cause
them
there's a
and
lot
knew
of
they were
drinks
there,
this has
but I
implications
couldn't
for
pick
how I
myself
explore
up to go
several
like
of them.
unlock the door.
Those two books are pre-prohibition.
Special occasion drink, but just one as well. But I don't think my body can properly process alcohol.
The next one is
Maybe.
Harry of Ciro's.
I don't know who did it. I have no clue. Not even a clue.
Mixology, the 1923
Harry of
first edition,
Ciro's.
calls for 1
Is Ciro's
teaspoon
a
of
bar?
grenadine,
Maybe Ciro's is a bar.
1/3 gin, 2/3 Bacardi, and half a lime. Now that gin Bacardi combo, that is a version of the Bacardi cocktail that you see.
I kind of like that.
reproduced a lot. But let's do this. This will be the first gin one.
I like
We'll
that
make
one. I
this,
think
and then
I think
we'll
the
move on to
gin
next.
rum would be pretty
I'm
good.
excited by this too because the split base is weird. Why would it have gin in it? I don't know. Harry McAlone, another pretty influential bartender, and he published many books from Ciro's, which was, I think, a club in London that was pretty famous.
Okay, yeah.
Okay.
Because they
build
usually
this version.
when
I'm
in
gonna make this
mixology
a
books when
little
it
bit
says
easier
somebody's
for myself.
name
I'm gonna read
of
that as
something,
one
it's not
part to
often
two
like
parts. So
that's
we'll do 1 ounce
Ford's.
Gin, 2
He's
ounces
using Ford's
of our
gin.
Bacardi. And then I hate the rest of this recipe because it's a teaspoon of grenadine and juice of half a lime. To be blunt, I don't like that for a number of reasons. One, you have 1/3 gin, 2/3 Bacardi. Those are proportional in measurements. They really are. It doesn't say
Okay.
1/3 ounce or 1/3 pony. It just says 1/3, 2/3.
Yeah, that
Then
I don't
you
know
have
who
1
did it. I don't know if it
teaspoon
was
of
somebody
juice of
in the
half lime. Those
group
are
and like I got
concrete,
passed because I was
definitive
basically
values,
drinking some of the
juice
drinks
half
that
lime
people
certainly.
didn't finish.
I'm gonna make this
or
1
other
ounce
things
and
like
1 ounce.
that.
I think that just from experience.
Or drinks that were like
anything
left at our table generally that somebody wasn't gonna touch, and they were just like, I was like, I'll finish them. I don't want them to go to waste. So I remember having like a Jaeger bomb, which was like beer and Jägermeister, a pickleback, which is vodka and pickle juice.
Oh yeah.
At least one Dos Equis beer bottle.
We'll balance it that way. 1 ounce of lime juice, 1 ounce of our pre-prohibition.
And I don't remember what else after those. But I got taken home early by our driver, by our DD,
Okay, this is
because when they found me in the bathroom, and we went through like Whataburger, I literally couldn't open my eyes because I felt like the room was
love the
constantly
color of these
spinning.
things. They are
And I was like,
gorgeous.
can you ask them
Cheers.
for an empty cup? I really don't want to throw up in your car. And so they gave me like a large cup. And I basically just shoved my mouth into the cup just in case I threw up. I didn't. But I just had I just shoved like from like the upper lip down into the cup just in case I needed to vomit.
You taste the essence of the gin without it becoming a gin.
And we drink one beer? Makes sense.
Very ginny. Cuban style rums are pretty smooth.
But yeah,
They
it wasn't
don't have
until
a
within the last
ton
few
of
months I was
loud
like,
characters. They don't have a lot of fuming.
wait, I think I was
It's really kind
roofied.
of a buttery rum, in my opinion.
Wait a
It's
minute.
subtle, tasty,
And that was back in
round,
that was back in
and that really
2019.
tamps down
That happened back in
balance that would
2019.
Otherwise make this a really gin-forward cocktail. But the gin is actually introducing, I think, some
Goofily
really
enough,
cool herbal
the
components
day
here, but
before
that
I was leaving
also
on a
is
trip
accentuated by the
to
clove and the vanilla and the
to go
orange
to
and
through New
the- what else
Orleans
is in it? Oh,
to
the
go visit
ginger.
family in
I
Tennessee
forgot that there's ginger in this too.
from one of the
It's in
mentioned
the
trips
Grenadine.
from New
And they're all
Orleans.
kind of, it's a real concert of flavors in here. that
Discovered
is
archaeologists
very
found
well
traces of fermented
imbalanced.
honey found in clay pots in what is now
like
northern
this
China, dated around
My wife and
7000
I
BCE.
enjoy many a daiquiri.
Is
We may be
unknown.
having quite a few Bacardis in the future. I ate a very salty dinner. And I'm
How was
super
alcohol
thirsty.
discovered, or was it just kind of a
The
thing that
acidity and
happened?
sweetness of this
Alcohol is the
really
natural
going
here.
well with the salt.
The alcohol is a naturally producing reaction, especially among fermenting fruits. If you've ever seen the goofy internet videos of like squirrels eating fermented apples that fell out of a tree and they're just kind of like stumbling around and falling all over the place, that's the same thing. Alcohol typically happens naturally through a fermentation process is probably the easiest, most natural form. Our distillery processes are somewhat similar, just usually with different products. I couldn't tell you the earliest. It's probably honestly one of the oldest forms of food, weirdly enough, just because of the fact that it's a natural process in the world. I wouldn't doubt though if the earliest alcohol we found is probably a wine, because that would be the easiest thing to ferment. Well, you did just say it was honey pots. That's the earliest, 7000 BCE. As long as conditions are met, it's probably been with humans longer than humans. Yeah. Having a good time. Need me some of that. This is where it was accidentally discovered that leads to the large change in life. Oh, probably. Honestly, probably. I don't know. That's generally it, though. It's either going to be that, like, those honey pots that fermented, although it could have also just been regular honey that fermented over time. But wine has been around a long time. Is it similar to the wines that we have today? Not quite. Older large volumes of wine being made were basically just shoving fruit in a pot and putting it underground for a while. Long while.
Food that I had. Do you feel like that? I feel like the food is too salty now. I'm angry. I feel like the food is too salty. Hold on, we're gonna do an essay about this. I feel like the food is too salty. That is a fucking cool cocktail. I love the way it lingers with this dance.
The food is too salty. Got it. Wait, which is he talking about, like all foods?
Oh, wow, that's fun.
Maybe we do put too much. We definitely put too much sugar in foods. I don't know about salt.
Oh, this is where it gets really weird and jumps off the fucking rails. So the next time that I find this cocktail in print is in the About Town cocktail book from 1925, and this version of the Bacardi cocktail is
The things I would give to have physical prints of these books.
Juice. We need pineapple juice right now.
Maybe I need to
We're
go
gonna
back to that
need
bookstore
1
I
ounce
found
of
and see if they
pineapple
have
juice. This is an equal measure
specific
drink,
like
so I can just
mixology
put
and
1 ounce of
bartending
pine.
books.
We're going to need
I didn't find a
1
cooking
ounce of
section
gin.
when I was
Off the
there,
top of my
but
head,
maybe
I
they
didn't
have
know
some.
Who was the author for the About Town cocktail book?
Survival of Humanity, LDR, helped with food poisoning in ancient times. Yeah.
And 1 ounce of our rum. So I don't know, but possibly this drink is just someone looking at Harry Gellhones and deciding to take like.
But yeah, alcohol has been a part of
Curiously, this
basically
drink calls for no
humanity.
grenadine at all.
Probably.
It does not. It does call for.
I don't. You may be able to find it as far back as like Gobekli Tepe.
I'm gonna just stick with 1 ounce.
Gobekli Tepe.
Less than
but no.
1 ounce would be, I think, probably not a great choice.
Drapes, why you drinking it, Greg? Because it makes me feel good.
To an ounce. Let's put it that way, because my limes.
It makes me
are
feel
down.
good.
There we go. Close enough.
I'm having a great time.
Except that I spilled some. Still close enough. We're gonna stick with it. 1 egg white.
Wait, is that
Give that
just
a good dry shake?
Oh wow, we're going
That
classic
egg white
fizz.
and the pineapple. This drink should froth up outrageously.
I was gonna say
And it
this
did.
is.
I might have to put this into a highball or something. Let's get
Yeah,
a
this
glass out.
is a fizz cocktail. Nowadays, when we make fizzes, most places, unless you go to like high-end bars, aren't gonna
Oh yeah, we can fit it all.
do
Now, that's
the
a nice
egg
looking
white
drink.
for a
I
fizz.
don't mind the way that appears. I don't know what this is gonna taste like. I have a
But
feeling it's not gonna be very good.
Frankly, it's a big
You know, so
part of like
remember, our
classic
only
cocktails,
sweetness
classic
here
fizzes, especially a
coming
gin
from pineapple
fizz.
juice, really. So I think this is gonna be bracing. I've had worse drinks. I'm surprised by how loud the pineapple is. This is a very pineapple-y drink. It would
Big
definitely be
kahuna.
better with some sweetness.
I bet our
And
monkey
I'm
forebears were
really
eating
thinking
rotten fermented fruits off the ground for the heck of it. I mean,
alcohol.
monkey troops do
I
that
don't think I
now.
really taste any of the gin. Maybe faintly.
They do that.
It is sour. I mean, it is tart.
Yeah, alcohol consumption has
very
been
tart.
basically
I'm not
around
gonna go
probably
the
as long as
whole
fruit
ounce
have.
of the
Honestly,
grenadine
as
here.
long as
Let's
fruit
do,
has
like,
been around and
3/4.
they've been
Quick
fermenting,
reshake and then re-pour.
has been like a
And
process
reworking
of like
these
their
drinks,
breaking down and stuff.
Definitely not part of the plan.
Getting drunk off alcohol has
We were good
existed.
friends back then.
There's a lot of other animals
So
that
it's
get drunk. Like I
entirely
mentioned, a
possible
squirrel
that either you
earlier.
were just supposed to
Pretty much
know,
any other
or
animal that
the
like
book
feeds
had
on fruit and
misprint,
happens to
and
find
yeah,
bad fruit, but is
certainly
desperate
the
enough to
pink
eat
foam
it.
is prettier than the
Alcohol
lily white.
consumption, baby.
That is infinitely better.
5000 BCE
Now
in Mesopotamia,
you
but not that. Thanks for the info.
It
Ooh.
is on the sweeter end of the spectrum now. Still balanced, sour, sweet. I don't know if the unique
Mousse on fermented
characteristics of the
apples, correct.
pre-prohibition grenadine are coming through on this. I think there's just too much going on with the pineapple and the gin. I will say the egg white
That's
is not a poor
crazy.
choice.
Wait,
Just
rating
losing the
somebody's
pineapple
booze
and
stocks is
balancing
crazy.
down
And
the gin. Going back
elephants?
to like the Harry Macalone version.
Can you
but
imagine
adding
trying to
egg white,
wrestle a drunk as
probably
shit
a pretty
elephant
cool
out of your
idea.
village?
Not much more to say on that. Hey, actually, you know what? This is a cool time to say, I'm doing a lot of cocktails in this episode. A lot.
You got 4 of these here, dude.
Bacardi cocktail, and I have a really cool way that you could put them all in your pocket. If you want to
Oh,
try
it's the
them all
app.
very
This is the
easily.
app advertisement.
It's at htdapp.com. If you go to htdapp.com, you'll be directed to sign up for my Patreon. This is a web-based platform.
Mead is one of the oldest alcohols known. True.
I'm very proud
The thing
of
is, though, is I don't know if mead
became a web
outweighs
I think I learned
wine.
programming to do this to the extent that I learned programming at all.
Have you been drinking that?
But I didn't
No,
do
it only
myself.
had a few
If you're
fruit
using how to drink as your own personal
thingies.
cocktail guide, the HCD app
Fine.
is really
Shut
the
up.
best way to do it. I found out people were doing that, going to YouTube, looking up recipes from my show, which is an
There's a
honor.
drunk elephant and
that's
just
a
exists
terrible
there.
way to
You
do
don't
that.
get rid
YouTube's
of
not
it.
really
Yeah,
built
pretty
for that,
much.
But the HCD app is. All of these, and also the drinks that don't make it into the video part of the episode.
Hi, Ed. What are you
will be
doing in the
HCD
ceiling
app,
again?
Stacked under multiple versions of the singular Bacardi cocktail that you can swipe through.
Hold on a
They
second.
will include the book that they came from and date of publication. So if something like that appeals to you.
Oh my God, Monkey and Cat.
And if you just kind of love the show and want me to be able to continue to make it because YouTube revenue has fallen off of a cliff, take a look at my Patreon, see if there's anything else other than the app over there, or if the app is enough that would
No,
make you think that
the
this is worth your time
marmoset.
and money. We
You're
have
just
private
a little
Discord that
marmoset.
is really cool. Actually, there's an
All right.
episode coming up where our mod.
I hope they still rep before someone turns into a pancake. Listen, give it like a 30-foot berth and you'll probably be fine.
Extended episodes you can watch the show.
Australopithecus
without ads.
Choir,
There
don't
is
text
exclusive
Greg's
content.
ex.
You can see stuff that I'm developing.
Greg's
behind the
ex.
scenes,
Oh
all
my
of that.
God.
And as I said, it really does make the show possible. Let's move on.
Welcome in, Raiders. Abby, how was your stream? Boom. What did you do? What did you do, Abby? What do you mean, boom, while you were playing Vintage Story? Just Haru, thank you for the follow. Welcome in, guys. Those of you from Abby's stream who don't know me, my name is Mara. I'm the ringleader of the Dark Carnival. I typically play games that are dark, spooky, terrifying, or just whatever little shenanigans my mind likes to get into. Tuesday and Thursday, however, we like to do some yapping here and there. Today is Thursday. Typically, we would have done something spookier, paranormal investigation, urban exploration, anything like that. However, it's turned into a stressful week as of yesterday. So I wanted to do something just kind of hang out vibe. And my favorite things to do to relax is food videos or cocktail videos or history videos. So if you haven't liked any of those things, I do recommend hanging out for a little bit. You're a big dork, but also big privy. How are you? I'm doing good, Abby. How are you doing? Sorry, I'm adjusting myself in my chair and bringing my legs up, sitting crisscross over here. I'm still flexible enough as an old person to bring my legs up and sit in my chair. All right. It's a good game, and it's been a week, boss, for sure. It has been a week. I froze again for some reason. Yeah, quiz quash appy sauce. Oh my God, but welcome in, Raiders. I hope you had a good stream with Abby. We're currently watching How to Drink. He's doing a video on the Bacardi cocktail, a cocktail that's not really made basically since the 20s.
On to the next one. The next time that
He's
this
made
drink
4
appears in
already.
print is in
We're making
El
like
Bar
4 more.
Mercadillo in
Oh.
España from 1927.
Oh.
Prepararse en coctelera 3 or 4 pecaditos de helio.
Café de goma.
Cucharada de las de café de goma. 2 cucharadas
Lemon
de las
juice.
de café de jugo de limón.
The rest
y
with
el
Bacardi?
resto de ron Bacardi. Servase en copa de cóctel.
I would have murdered. Of course, I'm not gonna like. You can murder me. He's
3 or 4 small
this
pieces of ice,
white
1
dude in his
teaspoon of simple
garage.
syrup, 2 teaspoons of lemon juice, and the rest with
He
Bacardi
doesn't know it.
rum.
He
Served in a
looked for the
cocktail
books
glass.
where it was
I'm
next
gonna skip
printed,
that one,
and he's
but
doing
that
it in
is
order,
nothing
and
more
he doesn't speak
than a rum
Spanish.
sour.
It's fine.
This book, I think, well, it's from Spain. People mistakenly associate Prohibition with
Of
the
gum
death
syrup,
cocktails.
some
Prohibition was
Bacardi.
almost the
Yeah.
death of cocktails, because bartenders in America who had been perfecting this craft from the 1860s on.
Ah, yes.
Were suddenly
Western
criminals,
mixology.
and they could not ply their trade, and they had limited access to ingredients and customers.
Hmm.
Despite what you may have been told, Prohibition was actually pretty good, at least initially, at reducing alcohol consumption in America.
I mean,
People who
yeah,
could
because
afford
the
to do
fucking
so
everybody
took
else that
weekend
had the
trips
money
to
was
Ghana
just like,
or
I'm going to,
Cuba
we're gonna
or
start making underground bars.
Paris,
Fuck this
and
shit.
now weekend
Fuck
trips,
this
but,
shit.
you know, they would
Going to go
leave
eat some
have enjoyable times.
ooh
Remember, cocktails at that
kebabs.
time were pretty much highbrow.
Share. I want
People who
kebabs.
could enjoy a cocktail could also enjoy it.
Also with an extremely
And the
Scottish
bartenders
grandma.
in America who were the best left. As a matter of fact,
He's from an
a lot
Italian
of
background, not
countries,
Spanish.
like
Also with an
in
extremely
Paris,
Scottish grandma. Wait, that's
in
hilarious.
France and in
Has he had his
England,
grandma on? I have
and
not seen his
maybe
grandma
even
before.
Germany, American bars opened up because American drinks were synonymous with cocktails.
Yeah,
We
yeah,
are
this-
the
that
country
was what I
invented the
learned.
cocktail. I know. Some people in Europe right now
That
who
that
have,
that
like,
grenadine, old grenadine, was
European
not
supremacy disorder or something like
was not
"Look at me,
pomegranate
bro."
based.
No, it's. I'm sorry, it is true. Like the cocktail.
Wait, go
People in
back.
American countries.
Go back,
like
go back.
In Paris and in France and in England and maybe even in Germany, American bars opened up because American drinks were synonymous with cocktails. We are the country that invented the cocktail. I know. Some people in Europe right now who have like.
I mean, that is technically true. It was made
European
primarily in New
supremacy disorder or
York.
something like, that can't be true. No, it's. I'm sorry, it is
It's,
true.
it
Like, the
started majorly
cocktail
in New York.
As a
like the
concept
general
really does
practices
kind of originate in America.
of major
The
mixology
cocktail is somewhat distinct.
originated in New York City.
And nobody during Prohibition.
Back from the shower.
before
Welcome
actually
back,
questioned
Knight.
that, to the point that like the word.
Did you
American
ungame
drink
yourself properly?
Was synonymous with cocktail. Matter of fact, a lot
Did
of
you
these
scrub
books
yourself?
Are called
You
How
didn't
to Make
just use your
American
hand,
Drinks,
right?
Your guides for cocktails. I'm not making that up.
Fly on a
It's
plane
not-
when she found out the pilot was
we do a lot of
Campbell.
things-
Like his
we get a
name, his
lot of
last
it
name was
wrong. We get
Campbell.
a lot of it wrong. We got cocktails right. We're allowed this one.
Hmm.
Okay? Next drink is Here's How from 1927. 2 parts Bacardi, 1 part lime, a dash of
That's
grenadine.
so
We've
weird.
made that drink. 200 selected drinks from 1930. Bacardi cocktail.
Ooh.
2/3 Bacardi, juice of a lime, sugar to taste. Again, we're right
Sugar
back
syrup
to
to
a daiquiri.
taste.
Drinks of yesteryear from 1930. Bacardi
Ooh.
cocktail. Half Bacardi, half Italian vermouth. Dash
What?
of Peychaud's, stir, strain, orange peel. Now, dash of Peychaud's
Vermouth?
That is interesting because I gotta say, this grenadine, I said it had more in common with Angostura than it does
Okay.
with pomegranate.
Good night, ordained. Sleep well.
More
Thank you
in
for
common
hanging out.
with Peychaud's bitters.
Also, put the sword
clove
down.
Does not
Put the
present
sword down.
that far away from the way that like the anise does.
Oh, my
that's
goodness.
in Peychaud's. That is an.
Oh my God!
actually an
Sometimes
interesting drink.
you can definitely
Other
tell
things
it's
it says
automated
a stirred
captions
drink, which is
because
kind
that
of
said
unusual here,
pesos.
so let's make that one. And I do need a bottle of Italian vermouth. I didn't have one. Actually,
Gotta
this
go
is
hunting
perfect.
down.
This is Martini and Rossi Bianco, which is different than dry. It's a little bit sweeter, and I have a really strong feeling that this is what they meant to be using. Perfect. Because
You
if
just
use
took
the
a
dry
swig of
vermouth
that
here,
thing.
The drink would be bone dry.
Basically because of the
and,
Glencoe massacre?
Not
Oh.
enjoyable. With that, you have a little bit of roundness
Go
and a little
on.
bit of sweetness. And actually,
I don't know much about
this
Scottish or
kind of
Irish
vermouth,
history.
Bianco or Blanco vermouth.
I'm American.
Blanc vermouths.
Worse,
This
I'm a
is the right
Texan.
vermouth to use in an El Presidente. Another cocktail from
South
this
Park episode
period
went
that
even
calls
further than the last
for
one since this one's
grenadine.
about
I almost
Mr. Mackey
forgot
needing
because
money and
it's
it's forced to
already
join.
one of my favorites
Jesus.
with really
Okay, that's kind of
pre-flavored
funny.
grenadine.
That's actually really funny.
Blow it out of the water. So we're gonna do 1 ounce of this vermouth.
I
1
thought I
ounce
saw something
of
earlier
the
today
rum,
about South Park
a
trending
dash of
again. I just
Peychaud's,
didn't know why.
Maybe 2 dashes. Now then you get to the question of was Peychaud's different in 1930? Ooh, now we don't know. Ice.
That is a very good
ice,
question.
big
Does it matter? It probably matters. It does probably matter if it was different.
Into a chilled piece of glassware. Grab an orange. Says it needs a twist of orange. Who am I to disagree?
Him swinging his arms really
It's
fast
interesting, now
around
that I'm
that tall
putting
glass
this all
sticking up
together,
stressed me
actually,
out.
This drink is a El Presidente, or extremely close to it. It's only missing the curacao, and I think the proportions.
I swear recently I've had an
And
El
here we have
Presidente.
Bacardi
I say
cocktail
recently
from
as in
Drinks
like 2
Yesterday,
years.
1930.
In 2 years, I'm pretty sure I've had an El Presidente somewhere.
Now that's a different animal. New.
But I can't remember where.
Not actually.
Fish shop,
all
maybe?
That similar to an El Presidente, or at least not the way I make it. The vermouth here is very present. And
Not
lovely.
the president.
Actually, I'm really liking the way this martini and Rossi tastes. It has like almondy, nutty,
Vermouthious.
maybe
Ah,
walnut
yes,
as well. No, it's very
vermouthious.
nutty to me. The orange.
I had a training
rides
video
on
of
top
Ice
that
Barbie
really
talking
well.
about doing what's needed, even if it's hard, before pulling a.
It's a lot more mild in flavor than Angostura. It's
Oh,
definitely
that's
adding
actually
color,
referencing
and
what she
it
did to
could
a
very
puppy
well
that
be
she had because she was
that's what it
upset
is.
that
It's
she
about
didn't have the
color.
patience
Because
to
look at the
train it to
color,
go hunting.
you know, of all of our
She
other,
apparently also did it with like a
Bacardi
goat at
cocktails,
one
right?
point.
It's certainly on
It's
its way
literally in her own biography
and
book.
It is possible that this little
She published it,
metal
thinking
dash
it
of
would
art
make her
is
look
not
good.
dashing as much pesos as it should have in 1930. Absolutely. So let's flavor that up a little bit more, and we'll just work it in a little bit, which will also bring it closer to the color expected, right?
Mmm.
I find that to be a very enjoyable drink.
Yeah, she
I
actually
love
did do
the
that.
interplay of the orange peel,
She did, in fact, do that. Thought it was
vermouth.
cool,
They have gone a little
so
heavy on
wrote
bitters
it in
now.
as a
They
major part of her own biography book.
hate that. I kind of
And
like
then
it.
got
That's, a
upset
pleasant,
when people started calling her a
palate
monster
cleansing
for
kind of
it.
thing. It's certainly not a bitter cocktail at all.
Piece who
This is
starts with animals.
A bajillion light
Yeah.
like a Negroni or anything with Campari in it, in my opinion. It's nice.
Had to make a
It is
special
balanced,
agency just for her. Jesus.
rounded.
Not the ATF joke.
It's very nice.
Not the ATF
Balloons
joke.
in the
Oh,
hand
good
of
lord.
somebody wearing, well, I was going to say a tuxedo, but what I actually mean is a finely cut Italian suit with dancers cut on the
I'm just gonna let him
sleeves
go.
so that the jacket is way up high, so that when you raise your arms, your jacket doesn't raise. I hate when that looks. And you've got proper surgeon's buttons on the sleeves, so you can unbutton your jacket and roll it up and reveal a dashing liner. Yes, maybe an ascot or something like that. Very spritzatura. Real cock of the walk kind of thing.
I just wanted to see where he was going with that. I wanted to I didn't want to speak over that.
Bacardi cocktail. So in some ways,
Now she's
I feel
joking
like
about
this is a
genocide.
mark.
Yay.
So I don't want to give anyone any points. I
How
just
did she
think
get
that
this fucking
it's not really a Bacardi cocktail as we have come to understand it.
Opened the fridge twice and still forgot to grab water. You fucking
2
goofball.
parts Bacardi, 1 part gin, 1 part lime juice, grenadine to taste. We have had that.
Grenadine
drink. It's a
to
great drink. I
taste.
like that drink a lot. I think that's probably my favorite.
A lot of
version
grenadine,
Bacardi
pretty
cocktail.
please and thank you.
Swallows from 1930.
What the
This
fuck
name,
is that
my
book
God.
cover?
That is a filthy sounding book. Also, I love the cover of this book.
It is. It is very much a
I feel
fucking
like this manual belongs behind the bar in a filthy
a
bordel.
filthy gay
So the
bar
first
in this
Bacardi-
case. It feels like it needs to be the sleaziest, flamboyant, brightly colored like gay bar you've ever seen, and I need it on the shelf. This book is old, so what I want, if I found this book in a bar in this day, I need it to be in like a filthy, grimy New York like basement bar that's probably been running for like 60 plus years. That would be amazing. That's what the cover of this book and the name looks like. It feels like, it's like, guys, I've made this amazing cookbook of like all the cocktails I've ever made in my life or that we regularly make here at the bar. What do we need to name it? And there's just some like flamboyant dude on the couch. Swallows, darling. There's some shit like that. I don't know what that accent was, but it just felt like what I was going for. Top shots, bottom shots, and switch shots. Jesus. I got it the 3rd time. Proud of you, champ. 3rd time's the charm. I don't know. That's what the fucking title feels like. I'm sorry. That's such a good.
That's a daiquiri.
It's a vivid
Bacardi number
image.
2.
It's a very
That's- I
vivid
forgot to
image.
mention, for some reason, this book swallows
5?
has, I think, 5 Bacardis in it. Bacardi number 2.
What?
2/3 of a jigger Bacardi, 1/3 of vermouth.
One's
1 spoon of
pineapple, one's
Okay, there we go.
simple
We got
syrup.
the-
One's
got the-
raspberry syrup and
whatever
orange
that- was
bitters.
that, Harry Siro or Crata. I don't know.
Orange,
I
lemon,
think that was
and
Ciro's
grenadine.
Bacardi number 3. 2/3 of a jigger Bacardi.
And then the Bacardi gin pineapple lemon.
Raspberry syrup, 1 dash of orange bitters. That actually sounds like a really cool drink. Unfortunately, I didn't bring any raspberry syrup today because I didn't read my notes that carefully. I was just doing a lot of copy.
Yeah, this is kind of what it feels like. It feels like NYC drag queen, but it's old drag queen.
So, you know, whatever.
This is like we're talking like 50s, 60s. New York drag queen. East Village.
Grenadine became hard to find.
Where's Hectic? Hectic knows the history of New York.
To me,
I don't know it too well.
Grenadine was not.
I don't know New York history too well.
Pomegranates were pretty hard to get back in the day. Bacardi number 4. A pony of Bacardi, quarter jigger of lemon.
I don't know. I kind of want a copy of this book though.
I guess, or possibly that means orange curacao.
I kind of want a copy of it just to add it to my bookshelf of all my my mixology
We're
books.
Back to Bacardi, gin, pineapple, lemon, and an egg white. Crazy cocktail. It kind of is, I think, more or less a compilation of every version.
The kind who uses words that became slurs because fuck you, that's what they were called in their time.
Shake 'em
Yes.
Up from 1931.
Yes.
Old-fashioned Bacardi cocktail.
Old-fashioned at this point?
1 glass of Bacardi rum with the juice of 1 lime and a teaspoon of sugar.
Teaspoon of
that's
sugar.
I like this. Okay, so this is a book called 100 Cocktails from 1931, and they call this a
Okay.
left-handed Bacardi, and it's 1 part gin.
That's the same thing.
2 parts Bacardi rum. Well, that is the gin rum grenadine drink that we've seen before, but they just happen to call it a left-handed Bacardi, and I kind of like
Why left-handed?
Same drink, same drink. We move on to Wet Drinks for Dry People from 1932.
Gin
A
Fizz,
cocktail
baby,
guide
right on
that
the cover.
I've fallen in love with. It's where I found the pansy, which was a really fun episode. A lot of history in that. Some of my favorite topics, good cinema, censorship, all of that. I encourage you to check it out.
Like
it's an
Ivy
episode I'm
something
very proud of.
swallows. Oh, and you say that like you're saying that's like the drag
Also,
name?
that book is
That's the
pretty
drag
funny.
name?
1.5 ounces of our Bacardi, a dash of grenadine, and a half of lime. So a standard Bacardi cocktail as we have come to understand.
Sometimes called a
These
September
proportions, when they
morning?
say dash, spoon to taste. Assume that at the end of the day, you're going to balance them out the same way that you would. Like it means to taste. That's how you know. Bartender's Friend from 1933.
The Bartender's Friend, that's a good
Bacardi,
book.
lime
That's another
juice,
good book.
teaspoon of agave syrup. That is a daiquiri. We don't
That
need to
one that
make
he showed was
Fine
leather
beverages and
bound.
recipes
I
for
would
mixed
kill to
drinks
have a
from
leather bound
1933.
version of that book.
Lime, powdered sugar, Bacardi.
Powdered
grenadine.
sugar?
The drink we've seen. They happen to use powdered sugar. You can use powdered sugar in a drink when you shake it because it will dissolve. pretty
Powdered
quickly, as I
sugar?
understand it.
Really?
I've never actually done it, but it's how a lot of these older books are done. Here's how we just did, because it's the same as Swallows. 1933, Prohibition is ending.
Oh.
And you get these books that are compilations, I think. And here's how seems to be one of them. It has lifted straight out of Swallows.
So working on the middle name? Okay, gotcha. Gotcha. I see. No, that makes sense.
Called Lest We Forget, grenadine, gin, Bacardi, juice of half a lime. And so after that,
Is that from
basically,
Cuba?
every
I
time
think that's
this cocktail
specified
appears
from
in print,
Cuba.
It's one of the 3.5 versions that we've seen so far. There are a couple of times you'll
Hi,
see
Dubs. Yeah,
this
we've been hanging out. I love
pineapple
watching How to Drink.
thing
Today's been a pretty
showing
chill
up.
day.
I don't know where that
We're
comes
doing the
from.
1920s
Pretty weird.
Bacardi cocktail
Yeah.
episode.
Personally, I think this is so cool because a lot of times when we look at these old recipes,
Getting into cocktails after being totally right when most of the people you
we don't
know are
know
going
if
a
we're
lot
making
drier.
the way it would have been made back then.
T
A lot of times some of that information is missing.
totally right when what?
Was
Wait, what?
this
I'm not sure what that
removed the
statement
same?
means.
Does this ingredient even exist?
I don't think we're gonna
What
watch another one
sweetness
after this one.
was that particular simple syrup being made?
Well,
so many things.
no,
go
I don't.
into
I don't think
that.
we're gonna watch another
And
one after
so
this
a lot
one.
of the drinks from then that we
On the arms?
now
Thank you, Morgan.
enjoy, I think are the drinks from then that
It's
we
very
that
cool.
work well with
All of the
ingredients
arms
we
do them,
have
so I can
today.
like.
But maybe they would not have been the best.
They do them when they're
drinks
down. They
available
can bring out the
at
extra
time. Other
arms. They also do it.
I think the Bacardi cocktail is a classic example of that.
All of my middle
because,
fingers do
frankly,
it.
We started making grenadine the wrong way at some point, probably in.
Have we learned how to
40s
drink
or
yet? I don't know,
50s.
Sensar. Are you
And
feeling
so
properly
this
educated on how to
cocktail
drink?
Falls out of favor.
Are you feeling properly educated?
So fun and unique and balanced.
What, Sensar? What's
and
wrong?
Spiced disappears. So every once in a while we get an
You don't like my
opportunity
fingers?
to sort of dig back into
It's because they're so
history
long.
and bring a piece.
They're
of it
very
into
long
the
fingers.
present. And thankfully, Darcy O'Neill did that.
These
for
are, in
us.
fact,
We
very
can
long
now make
fingers.
Period appropriate pre-prohibition grenadine. Again, I can't stress this enough. Go check out his content and revive some of these cocktails.
I
There's a
believe it's
lot of
decided to
cocktails
avoid
from that
alcohol,
time
going
frame
off of Rimworld trait.
where there is grenadine
Teetotal?
and there's kind of a dismissal of that from modern bartenders, where if it's a small amount, sort of we think.
Right, when
oh, well, it
people
must
you
be
know
just
are
there
drinking
for
a lot
fun.
less.
You
Ah,
dispense
gotcha.
that or replace it.
Gotcha.
Or if there's more of it.
That's
and
fine.
we
I'm not
use
like a drinker, like an
pomegranate
everyday
style
drinker.
brandy, as I
Again,
did, I
like
think in this glass.
the beer I had
Visually,
last
can
night will
tell
probably be the last thing I
we end up
drink
with
for like
something that's very
weeks.
fruity and bears no
There's no
resemblance
telling when the next time
whatsoever
I'll have an
to the
alcoholic
original
beverages.
Obviously, this is a silly
Top
point,
5 3-ingredient
Like, we can't connect
drinks.
with what this drink happened to taste like in the
Personal
day.
experience. Yeah, listen,
And
if
that's
you
not
have
very
any level of
important.
confidence
Yeah,
with
okay. We don't
mixing,
have real
bartending, or
grenadine.
anything,
We don't have the grenadine that they had in 19.
fucking people will try to get you to come like bartend for their parties.
But we also
It's very funny.
are even a generation or
Granted,
two
as
back,
long as they're trying to seem classy, they will like to have a bartender. But I've been to some places before where it just turned into me basically pouring shots for people.
Weirdly philosophical, but like every 7 years,
It basically just turns into me giving them like whiskey and tequila straight, and I'm just like, why am I here, dude? Y'all can do this
If you're a
yourselves.
materialist like I am, that means you're not really the same person.
Was
Which
one
is
of the
true.
cocktails rum and juice?
I do believe that.
One of them
in some
was
ways.
pineapple.
If
Had
that's
pineapple,
true, even in the
grenadine,
span of 7
rum.
years, what does 10 years, 20 years, 30 years back look like?
Ooh.
I don't think, no matter how much our parents or our grandparents tell us about what their time and their life was like, that we can ever understand it. And I think maybe
Fully
we make a
understand it? I
mistake
agree.
If we tell ourselves that we can. I think you just kind of
Playing collegiate, Ivy collegiate swallows.
a lot of.
That's fucking
I've got
hilarious. So
an
wait a
episode or
second.
series of episodes on the way at some point.
Is
About
it
the
because she's
Weimar
known
Republic
to
and the Weimar Republic, which is a
frequent the
fascinating
college
period of
dorm
history
rooms,
that I've
if you
been doing a
will?
lot of research on in
Or maybe
preparation
the
for that.
locker
And I came to
rooms?
this conclusion that a lot of think pieces, a lot of modern look backs
Amazing.
at that time and that place
Amazing.
cannot help but be framed from
Want to serve the mod straight whiskey? I come here for a mixing show. You're getting a mixing show.
They lived in such a fundamentally.
You're
different
getting the
world.
mixing
They had
show.
different
Fuck you.
Expectations, different understandings. I don't want to speak out of turn, but the German.
You're getting a blue
culture
curacao
of its day
margarita, and
had
you're gonna
something
fucking like it.
Almost Bushido system of
Bushido?
militaristic honor that I don't think we can relate to. I mean, like, you cannot wrap your head around that set of values. Whoa, man, I'm gonna go weird now. So if
Okay.
you played
Wait, hold on. I've lost the
Vampire
plot of what he was talking
Masquerade
about.
as a Sabat character.
Did I hear vampire?
Vampires have a rating of humanity.
Let's go.
typically, which is
Let's
how
go.
far close they are
How did this
to the
happen?
human
How did
set
this
of
happen?
values. But the bad guy vampires can abandon that set of values and embrace a path that helps them.
Okay. Oh my God, we're nerding out. I like chat. This is not about alcohol. This is about Vampire the Masquerade this entire time.
What it is like to have an utterly alien set
And a bit about Prussia.
experiences,
Gotcha.
expectations and values from what you assume as your baseline. That
Yes.
probably won't make the edit.
Greg is a nerd. I
think
love
that when you
Greg.
take a look back at that stuff, unless you were there.
Ian Thomas,
maybe
you can
even to
follow.
some
Welcome
extent,
in.
If you were there, because memory is a fickle thing, and memories of
They do a
memories
Cyberpunk stream.
are-
Apparently, yeah. You can actually see the box that he got from CD Projekt Red in the background.
Remember that you can't really access.
We've
it.
seen
You
that
can't
episode.
Really know what that was about or what that was like, and you can't really relate to that. I don't know.
What did I miss?
That was
He
a
started
weird
talking
place
about
to go.
Vampire
It's
the
just where I went.
Masquerade and
I
was
didn't have
using
any
the
plan to do that.
Sabat's
I was just making
morality
cocktails 'cause
paths
I was
as an example.
really amped up on reviving this old.
Wait, he
drink
did?
with this old ingredient. It's super.
You went to
duper
high
fun
school
for me.
with Brandon Lee
But then
Mulligan?
it
What
makes me
school
think
did they
about,
go
like,
to?
my connection to the past, and why not have a little moment about that, guys?
All right. I had a couple more open that were like basically used that I was going to use for fillers, but we didn't make it to them today. That is totally fine. But that is going to be it for today. Oh, we're on. I was looking for another page to swap to. We're on screen time. All I need to do is go over here. There we go. He did. Yeah, that's partly how we got. Oh, that's right. They did have that episode together. I forgot about that. Holy shit. All right, kids. We need to find somebody to raid. I know today is Seggy's birthday, but is Seggy live? Where is Segward, Virginia? I don't think. Yeah, I don't think he's live right now. Oh no, he's live. All right, we're gonna read Seggy on his birthday. Wait, I'm older than Seggy? Oh my god, I'm older than Seggy by like Fucking a week? If I had been born on my actual due date, Segi would be older than me. Christ. All right. We are gonna read Segi. What do we want to do for a raid message? All right, rest of the week, guys. Schedule's a little off right now. Tomorrow, we're going to be playing Mage of the Ascension over on Hectix. If you haven't checked it out, I highly recommend it. If you haven't joined the Discord, I highly recommend joining the Discord. I need to get back to doing movie nights in there because we still need to do our chronological watch of all of the Conjuring movies. We still need to watch the Annabelle one. We need to watch the original Annabelle movie. But here, where's our hype emote? We have the hype shake emote, the super hype, if you will. And then we can do, we'll do hat birth. Hat birth. All right. It's gonna be small, it's gonna be brief. If you want to do it, say like 3 times, like that, you totally can. That is totally fine. But Sunday, we are not going to have Vampire this week. We're out of Vampire Masquerade for at least 3 weeks, I think, maybe for the next month, just because there's a lot of conventions and stuff going on that really complicate the schedules for everyone. So Vampire is going to be a long way away going forward. But Mage is tomorrow, 11 CDT. 11 a.m. CDT. Until then, guys, thank you for being here. Thank you for being awesome. Thank you for enjoying the show. Good night.